Imagine being an ancient god-tier magic sword who just reincarnated into the body of a prince who looks like he's built out of mashed potatoes. Our guy is out here trying to mobilize mana, and his uncle, a guy with a scar and a permanent I hate my life face, is absolutely losing his mind. Why? Because this worthless pig just did the impossible and forged a mana heart. But here's the problem. The uncle looks at him and says, "Bro, that's a lowly mercenary technique for peasants. Imagine being the teacher of kings and getting ratioed by your own nephew's era. But to understand how we got here, we need to go back to the beginning. We start on a battlefield. Bodies everywhere, snow falling, and a dove sitting on a sword waiting for the main character to speak. This is a world of endless war where heroes are born in blood. And at the center of every single legend was me, the magic sword, Gruhorn. I wasn't just a weapon, I was the one who made the legends. Every king, every knight, every myth you've ever heard, it all started with my edge. But after centuries of babysitting heroes, the universe decided to pull a prank on me. I was passed down to a dear friend's descendants waiting for the next great warrior. Instead, I got woken up by someone shaking me like a Polaroid picture. This guy is screaming that he's my owner. The guards are begging him to stop, and I'm just thinking, who is this absolute unit? Meet Adrian Leonberg, 16 years old, arrogant, lazy, and, quote, morbidly obese. He's not a prince, he's a human beanbag with zero talent and a lust for chicken. This man actually has the audacity to scream my name and demand my power while having a mid-palace tantrum. He's swinging me around like a toddler with a lightsaber, threatening to kill everyone. And then, classic skill issue, he trips. He stabs himself, straight through the chest. The prince is bleeding out on the floor, his vision is blurring, and for the first time in history, a magic sword is about to catch a case. Everyone hated this kid. He was a stupid, violent pig who was a dark cloud over the kingdom's future. But when he wakes up from the brink of death, he's different, mainly because it's not him anymore, it's me. I killed my friend's descendant and took over his body. The original owner is gone, and I'm stuck inside this mountain of flesh. The king shows up, Adrian's dad. He takes one look at me and basically says my personality is still trash. The uncle is there too, looking disappointed that the pig survived. I play the I have amnesia card because the author needed to speedrun the social awkwardness. The king looks like a lion, but he treats me like a dog. The guards are whispering, the physician is confused, and I'm just lying in bed wondering if the king caught on to my act. He tells me that forgetting doesn't fix everything I've done. He looks at me with eyes that say, I wish I had a receipt for this kid. He's really laying into me, and I'm realizing this body isn't just fat, it's socially bankrupt. Then the queen walks in. She hugs me so hard my fat rolls are literally screaming for help. She calls me handsome and worn out. Ma'am, your son looks like a honey-baked ham in a wig. She tells me to never touch a sword again. Ma'am, I am the sword. This is getting really awkward. Once they leave, I have a moment of clarity. I killed my friend's kid. It wasn't intentional, but he's gone. Well, what can I do? I might as well live a good life for both of us. This body has zero talent, but I'm the guy who raised heroes. Step 1. Forge a mana heart. I start breathing, pulling in energy, and the first attempt, it just disperses. The body is rejecting it like a Karen rejecting a vaccine. Again and again. I'm on the floor, sweating, realizing this body is a total dumpster fire. Seriously, what kind of body is this? If I had my original form, I'd just ram the mana in there like a USB on the third try. A maid brings in restorative medicine sent by the queen. She's nervous, probably expecting me to throw the bowl at her like the old Adrian, but I smell it. This isn't just medicine. It's high-grade mana soup. I chug it. The maid is stunned. She's staring at me like I just ate a whole raw onion. I tell her to beat it and get back to work. The mana is effective, but it's going to scatter in a day. I ask her for more. A few days of chugging this gamer fuel later, I finally have enough juice to forge the heart. I've done this 1,000 times. I can do this with my eyes closed. But then, the pain. It feels like a fire is exploding in my chest. Creating a mana heart was supposed to be painful? The author definitely didn't mention this in the tutorial. If I faint now, the mana flows backward and I literally explode. Focus, catch the mana, let it permeate. It is done. A mana heart for me. A status window pops up, just like the ones I used to send my masters. The connection is poor and unstable. Basically, my mana is on McDonald's Wi-Fi. But I unlock third eye. I can see clearer. I can hear conversations through the door. I can hear the maids gossiping about my weight. And then, all mana depleted. Extremely limited was an understatement. I have the stamina of a pugging player in a 20-hour raid. The absolute senses I had as a sword are gone. I need to grow this mana container. And I need food. I need to adapt to this human body. The queen comes back, looking like she's about to win a Best Enabler award. And then, she brings in the final boss, her brother, the uncle. He's got a fur cloak and a look that says, I'm here to bully a teenager. I recognize him. He's the queen's brother. He smiles, but it's that I'm going to make you cry smile. He says the only thing he can do for me is take a bit of that flesh off. He tells the queen not to have expectations. I'm just standing there, looking like a confused potato. He pushes me. He tells me that from now on, breathing requires his permission. He laughs and says if I do well, he might teach me a secret move. How ridiculous. You're talking to the guy who taught the founding king of this country. I look at him. Uncle, I say, let's make a bet. In half a year, I'll make you acknowledge me. If I win, you grant me a wish. If I lose, I do whatever you say. He thinks it's hilarious. He agrees, figuring it's free entertainment. I start running, burning fat, mobilizing mana. The uncle watches and his eyes go wide. He sees the energy. Did you create a mana heart? I smile. Yeah, finished it a while ago. You regret the bet? He looks like he just watched a cat do calculus. A mana heart? He asks. That's a lowly technique used by low-class mercenaries. Wait, what did he just say? My legendary ancient technique is a budget mercenary move? Our guy is currently having a midlife crisis, which is impressive considering he just started his second life. Bale just told him the mana heart, the pinnacle of power in his era, is now the equivalent of a get strong fast scam you'd find in a YouTube ad. He is looking at his uncle like the man just told him the earth is flat. Adrian demands an explanation because there is no way the hero maker is using a low-level technique. Bale just tells him it's faster to show him. He tells Adrian to watch closely as he begins to channel his mana. Adrian sees the mana swirling, but instead of forming a solid heart, it starts to take the shape of a ring. Suddenly, the ring snaps into a chain-like structure, radiating a completely different kind of pressure. Bale explains that these mana chains are designed specifically to shatter the sword energy of a mana heart. It's a direct hard counter that is more stable and easier to maintain. He drops a history bomb 100 years ago. A guy named the Earl of Ely tried to stick to the mana heart system and got absolutely folded. Since then, the world moved on. Later that night, Adrian is buried in a book titled The Basic Theory of Mana Chain by a guy named Ernest Altringen. The book explains the new meta. Wizards collect mana by forming circles, which is pretty standard fantasy stuff. But for knights, it's all about the chain. A knight's power level is literally measured by how many chains they can interweave. You've got your single chains for the rookies, all the way up to quad and penta chains for the absolute monsters of the battlefield. Adrian realizes this isn't just some random trick, it's a fully developed system that has replaced his own. He stares at the name of the creator again, Altringen. It's itching a part of his brain that hasn't been touched in centuries. Then, it hits him. He flashes back to a time when he was still a sword, held by a master who was being challenged by a mysterious traveler. The man's name was Ernest Altringen, a guy who claimed to be a sword saint but fought with a bizarre mix of magic and swordplay that nobody had ever seen. Adrian realizes he's literally living in a world built by his old rival's homework. He wonders whatever happened to that guy, but honestly, he's more annoyed that Ernest's chain system won the cultural war. The next morning, the sun is up, and it's time for our prince to suffer. He's out in the courtyard doing stretches, looking like a very determined marshmallow. Bale walks up, asking if he actually bothered to read the book he gave him. He's hoping Adrian finally realizes how foolish he was to pick an obsolete technique for his foundation, but our guy just gives him that signature smug look. He tells his uncle that he doesn't think he made a mistake at all. Bale is genuinely annoyed now. He thinks Adrian is just being a stubborn brat who refuses to admit when he's wrong. Adrian raises his hand, and a small, flickering blue flame of mana appears. He asks Bale if he's ever heard of the difference in rank. He's basically telling a high-level knight that he doesn't understand the real version of the technique. Bale's face goes cold. The disrespect is reaching levels he didn't think were possible for a guy who gets winded putting on boots. He tells Adrian that there are plenty of mercenaries who think they're some ancient hero reborn. Those guys usually end up dead before they can even pass 2 rings. They try to replicate the past without understanding that the world got stronger. Bale issues a challenge. If Adrian thinks he's so different, he needs to prove it by defeating a knight with a double chain. If he manages that, Bale will stop being his warden and actually become his guardian, just like the queen wanted. Adrian smirks. He's not sure if having his uncle as a guardian is a win, but he'll take the deal. The tension in the courtyard is so thick you could cut it with a training sword. The guards are just standing there hoping they don't get drafted into this mess. Bale takes a step forward. He starts listing his credentials like he's filling out a LinkedIn profile. Count of the Kingdom, Commander of the Northern Army, Owner of the Black Shark Cavalry. The mana starts erupting from him like a geyser. The floor literally starts cracking under his weight. He reveals his true power, interweaving 4 rings into a quad chain. This is Vale Balhard. This is the man who will be standing behind Adrian if he proves his worth, or standing over him if he fails. The pressure is so intense, Adrian's face is literally being pushed back, but his eyes are locked in. He's not flinching. The guards are freaking out, reaching for their swords because they think the Count might actually kill the prince right here. They tell the Count to step back, reminding him that Adrian is still royalty. Bale just lets out a dry huff and powers down. The demon mask slips back into his usual stoic face. Adrian just grins, telling him not to take back those words later when the prince actually pulls it off. A moment later, the menace is face down on the pavement. Bale decides that's enough trauma for one morning and leaves the prince to rot in his own sweat. Adrian is gasping for air, realizing that even with his ancient knowledge, this body is currently a massive liability. He almost died just from the pressure. Bale throws one last insult over his shoulder, telling him that with his current level, he'd be lucky to even beat a single-chain rookie. Adrian staggers back toward the palace, cursing his uncle every step of the way. He opens his door and finds a visitor waiting for him. It's the royal physician. The guy is being super polite, honored that the trash prince actually remembers his face. The queen sent him to use healing magic on Adrian's injured body. The doctor starts charging up a spell, glowing with a gentle green light. Adrian reacts like the man is holding a live grenade. He kicks the doctor out of the room before the spell can even land. He's furious. If he uses healing magic now, all the tearing his muscles did during training will just be reset to their original flabby state. The blonde knight watching from the door is just confused. Most people would pay a fortune for instant healing, but the prince is treating it like poison. Adrian sits down for dinner, but the peace is broken when the door slams open. Enter Gillian Leonberg, the third prince. He looks exactly like the kind of guy who would remind the teacher about homework. Adrian doesn't even stop eating. He's just staring at his soup, wondering who this side character is. He takes a bite, completely ignoring the royal presence. The knight whispers that this is his younger brother, the talent of the family. Gillian walks in with a mocking smile, saying he heard Adrian was injured, but is disappointed to see him looking fine. Adrian asks him if he just came here to yapping or if he actually has a point. Gillian's smile twitches. He brings up the accident where Adrian stabbed himself, calling him a fool. Adrian just keeps chewing. He doesn't give this kid the satisfaction of a reaction. Gillian reveals he knows about the bet with Count Balhard. He knows Adrian has to fight a double-chain knight. He leans in, his face shadowed with a malicious grin. He suggests a small change to the plan. How about me as your opponent? The dinner table has never been more awkward. Gillian is standing there waiting for a yes, and Adrian is just trying to finish his meal. Adrian's internal monologue is just, what the hell is wrong with these kids? He's lived for centuries, and this is the most annoying thing he's encountered. The knight explains that Gillian has been a prodigy since he was in diapers. At just 14, he's already a double-chain knight. In this era, that's like skipping 3 grades and going straight to a PhD. A maid interrupts the tension, coming in with a literal tray of mail. Apparently, news of Adrian's recovery and his newfound interest in training has spread through the palace. Adrian sifts through the pile. These are people who wouldn't have spit on him if he was on fire a week ago. He reads the contents and his expression goes from bored to, oh, I see how it is. Every single letter is a request for a spar. They're all super polite on the surface, but the subtext is as clear as day. It's a legal chance to beat the absolute hell out of the kingdom's biggest embarrassment. They think it's a free win and a chance to look like heroes. Adrian's face twists into a villainous grin. He calls it a buffet. He hands the pile back to the maid and gives a very specific command. Write down all their names. He's making a list, and he's definitely going to check it twice when he's strong enough to break their ribs. The scene shifts to the training grounds. A wooden sword hits the floor with a heavy thud. Bale is standing over Adrian, telling him to pick it up. No more talking, no more politics, just pain. He tells Adrian that for the bet to even count, he needs to at least learn the basics so he doesn't have an excuse when he loses. Adrian grumbles about Bale's temper. He picks up the sword, but his body is screaming at him already. His muscles are twitching. Every fiber of his being is protesting the existence of gravity. He lets out a yell of pure agony. His muscles are killing him, and he isn't even exaggerating. Bale puts a hand on his shoulder and asks if he really hasn't received healing magic yet. He tells Adrian that if he wants to be a knight, he should know how this works. Healing magic is a shortcut. It restores muscles to their original state, but it doesn't let them grow. Bale is actually impressed. He realizes the prince is choosing to suffer specifically because he wants to get stronger the real way. He stops the lecture and decides to actually show Adrian something useful. Watch closely, he says. I won't show this many times. He prepares to demonstrate the Kingdom Training Sword, the absolute bottom-of-the-barrel foundation that every new recruit learns. Bale's eyes sharpen. Even with a basic style, a master makes it look lethal. He moves with a fluidity that shouldn't be possible for a human. The sword creates arcs of mana in the air, blurring as he executes the forms. He finishes with a strike that looks like it could split a boulder. It's clean, it's efficient, and it's powerful. The air around him is still vibrating from the force of the swing. Adrian is standing there, eyes wide, looking like he just saw a ghost. He asks Bale, Did you say this is the basic training sword for the kingdom's knights? Bale gives him a side-eye. He thinks Adrian is going to complain about it being too simple. He explains that it lacks flash, but it's true to the basics. For someone with Adrian's talent, it's more than he deserves. Adrian starts laughing. It's not a polite laugh, it's the laugh of a man who just found out the punchline to a 1,000-year-old joke. He's clutching his forehead, looking absolutely unhinged. He flashes back to a legend. The Dragon Slayer, a swordsmanship style that was used to slay the Mad Dragon in the ancient era. He realized that this training sword is actually the legendary Dragon Slayer style, but it's been stripped of its will and turned into a hollow set of movements. Bale tells him that if he learns the basics, he can pester the queen for a better master later. Adrian just turns his back. No need. This sword is more than enough. Bale looks at him like he's crazy. He thinks the boy is just being lazy and settling for the easy stuff. Suit yourself, Bale says, walking away. But as soon as Bale is out of earshot, Adrian swings. He explains to himself why the Dragon Slayer is treated like trash now. It's because nobody understands the will behind it anymore. A sword style meant to kill dragons only works if you have the intent to actually slay a dragon. The modern knights who threw away the mana heart for the easy chain system simply don't have the eyes to see its true worth. He strikes a training dummy, and the impact is loud, but it's still clunky. Bale isn't actually gone. He's standing behind him, correcting his posture. He tells Adrian that just using arm strength won't give the sword power. He pokes Adrian in the stomach, telling him to fix his core. Then he pokes his legs, telling him his foundation is weak. Adrian collapses again. Bale's lecture is simple. You have to channel strength through your entire body. Adrian just looks at the ground. Right. He knows he's currently a weak body clumsily imitating a fake Dragon Slayer, but he vows to prove that the Dragon Slayer was never outdated trash. The prince starts running. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days pass. He's out there every morning, a blonde blur of sweat and determination. A week passes. He's swinging that wooden sword until his hands bleed. He's meditating, using the mana heart to refine his constitution. A month passes. The transformation is hitting. The system notifications start popping off. He stands in the dark, sword raised. The fat is melting off, and muscle is finally starting to show. The trait, clumsy body, has disappeared. Physical exercise is now way more effective. Mana sensitivity disorder is gone. He now has normal mana sensitivity. He swings. It's faster, cleaner, and carries a weight it didn't have 30 days ago. It starts to rain. He doesn't stop. Stronger than yesterday. More perfect than a moment ago. He's reaching that zone. A voice screams, "Stop!" Adrian doesn't hear it. He's deep in his own world. He swings with everything he has, and the wooden sword actually snaps against Bale's real blade. The courtyard is silent except for the rain. Bale is holding his sword, but something is wrong. Blood drips into the puddles. Adrian blinks, coming out of his trance. "Uncle?" He looks at Bale's hand. In the background, the wooden training dummy Adrian was targeting has been completely obliterated. It didn't just break, it looks like it was hit by a localized lightning strike. Bale grabs him by the collar, calling him an idiot. He tells Adrian that if that had been a real blade, he wouldn't have escaped unscathed. Adrian looks at his own hands. They're charred and bruised from the sheer output of mana he just released. New trait created, hyper-focus. His body now remembers the sensation of perfect concentration. Adrian just starts laughing again, a genuine tired laugh. He thinks to himself that if he hits that level of focus again, he might actually die from the strain. He collapses forward, his body finally reaching its absolute limit. Bale catches him. For the first time, the Count's face isn't full of disappointment or anger. He looks at the sleeping prince, the rain washing away the grime, and just whispers, "You fool." Our guy wakes up looking like he just finished a 48-hour gaming session with 0 bathroom breaks. He realizes he passed out in his own bed after that insane training session with Bale. He's clutching his head, realizing his mind is currently a Ferrari engine strapped to a body that's essentially a broken tricycle. He starts reflecting on his past life as Gruhorn. He wasn't just a sword, he was the common denominator in every legend. He led wars, he raised the caliber of heroes' souls, and guided the path of kings. But he was always just a tool, a third party watching someone else hold the W. Now, looking at his blistered, charred hands, it's different. For the first time in millennia, the sweat and the effort belong to him. He's high on his own progress, but he knows he needs to find a balance before this body literally explodes. It's been a month since he created that mana heart. He's been hoarding mana like a dragon, and he's finally ready to hit the next level. He drops into a meditation state, and the system confirms what he already felt. Consistent effort pays off. The mana inside him starts swirling like a blue hurricane. The notification pops up. The mana heart has expanded. His container is officially getting an upgrade. His body is now durable enough to handle the higher tier software his brain wants to run. This expansion fundamentally changes his constitution. He's not just a fat guy with magic anymore, he's a vessel being forged. His eyes snap open, glowing with that main character energy. It worked. The pig is slowly becoming a predator. He walks over to a real sword. No more wooden training toys. He grips the hilt, and you can feel the change in the air. The system rewards his grind, stage sword learner achieved. He can now use the most basic level of aura. He looks at his reflection in the blade and smirks. With this, he can at least stop being a punching bag and start being the puncher. Cut to the courtyard. Bale is waiting, looking unimpressed as always. He mentions that rumors are spreading through the kingdom like a wildfire. He's talking about the bet. Apparently, the news that the Trash Prince challenged a quad chain knight has reached every noble ear in the capital. Adrian acts like it's no big deal, but Bale is annoyed because his own reputation is now tied to this circus. Adrian mentions he's already picked his first sparring partner, his younger brother Gillian. He's essentially choosing the hardest mode available just to flex, but first, he wants to warm up. He tells Bale he wants to try sparring with the single chain guys first. Bale doesn't care who he beats up as long as it happens fast. Adrian turns to Carl's and asks for the list. Carl's produces a massive scroll. This is the Kill Adrian waitlist. Carl's is genuinely worried. He asks if the prince actually intends to fight these people. He reminds Adrian that most of these nobles hate his guts. They aren't here for practice, they're here to give him a permanent injury under the guise of an accident. Adrian just gives him that "I know what I'm doing" smile. He turns to Bale and asks him to be the referee. He says he's not asking for much, he just needs the most dangerous man in the room to make sure nobody actually dies. A few days later, we meet our first challenger. He looks terrified but determined. He's standing in front of the first prince's palace, which he calls the home of the scoundrel. Meet Taylor Tyleheim. He's the second son of a minor baron, and he looks like he's been practicing his hero speech in the mirror for a week. We get a flashback. A few years ago, the original Adrian, the trash version, humiliated Taylor's father and brother at a banquet. Adrian basically treated them like country bumpkins and laughed them out of the room. Taylor's family honor is currently in the dirt, and he's the only one who can pick it up. He's looking at Adrian with pure, unadulterated salt. He offers a formal greeting, but you can see the veins popping in his neck. Adrian is standing there looking like he's about to fall asleep. Taylor starts the typical anime introduction, boasting about his Tyleheim swordsmanship and his single-chain status. Adrian interrupts him immediately. He calls him super weak and asks why he's being so formal for a practice match. Taylor is seething. He thinks Adrian is just as arrogant as the rumors suggested. Bale steps in and shuts it down. He tells Taylor to withdraw his aura because the match hasn't even started yet. Taylor turns into a total fanboy the second he sees Bale. "Lord Ballhard!" He bows so low he's practically inspecting the pavement. Meeting a hero like Bale is the highlight of his life. Adrian quips that people might start thinking Bale is the actual prince with all this bowing. Bale just tells him to behave himself. He's clearly tired of Adrian's mouth. He orders them to take their positions. The match begins. They lock eyes. Taylor is looking to end this in one hit. Adrian is just analyzing. Taylor charges up. His single-chain mana glows blue and white, and he's actually faster than he looks. He tells Adrian to be careful with a smug grin, thinking he's already won. He lunges forward, a standard piercing strike. The impact is fast. Taylor swings down with everything he's got. Adrian doesn't even move his feet. He just notes that Taylor has too many unnecessary movements. He blocks the strike effortlessly. Taylor's face goes from "I'm the hero" to "What is happening?" He realizes Adrian is using a mana heart to block his chain. Adrian pushes back, creating a shockwave that rattles Taylor's teeth. Adrian steps in, and Taylor is forced to retreat. Taylor is spiraling. In his mind, a primitive mana heart shouldn't be able to stop a modern mana chain. Adrian just tells him it's probably because his chain is only a single one. He smirks, telling Taylor the hit just tingles a bit. The psychological damage is doing more work than the sword right now. Taylor is shook. Then, the air changes. A low, humming sound starts coming from Adrian's sword. Bale's eyes go wide. "Sword cry!" He can't believe it. A sword cry is what happens when a blade vibrates in sympathy with a master's intent. It's supposed to be a high-tier skill. Taylor refuses to believe it. He charges back in, screaming. Adrian's expression goes dead silent. The blades clash again, but this time the pressure is different. Taylor is getting pushed back by sheer raw force. A massive burst of light erupts from the contact point. Taylor's feet are literally sliding across the stone floor. Adrian is panting, but he's still standing. Taylor is struggling to even keep his grip. Adrian thinks to himself that the rumors were right. Ring mana and heart mana are incompatible. He feels a backflow starting. It's like trying to run diesel through an electric engine. His chest feels like it's going to cave in. But Taylor is the one looking like he's seen a ghost. Adrian tells him he needs to cool his head. He closes his eyes. He drops into his mental hyper-focus. He tells his mana to arise. He reaches deep into his soul, the part of him that was a demon sword, a divine sword, and 1,000 other things. The system flares up. The mana heart has accepted a colossal will. A new color starts bleeding into his colorless mana. mana. The dormant will of the dragon-slaying sword awakens. His mana turns a violent glowing red-pink. His eyes turn into vertical dragon slits. An aura shaped like a massive dragon manifests behind him. This isn't a sparring match anymore, this is a slaughterhouse. The Dragon Slayer's heart has been activated. Taylor is frozen. He's looking at a monster. He's trembling, his sword rattling in his hand. He realizes he is completely outclassed. Bale sees the killing intent and screams at them to stop, but Idrian is already moving. He's a blur of pink death. Bale realizes that Black Blade is actually dangerous. He didn't expect the kid to pull out something this lethal. We get a quick flashback to right before the match. Idrian asked Bale to stop him if it looked like he was about to kill his opponent. He knew he couldn't control this will yet. Bale intervenes, putting his own sword in the path of Idrian's strike. The collision is massive. A crater opens up in the courtyard, dust and debris flying everywhere. Bale stands tall, his aura acting as a literal wall between Idrian and the terrified Taylor. Idrian is knocked flat on his back, gasping for air. The other knights rush in, surrounding Bale and pointing their swords at him. They're freaking out, calling it regicide because Bale just laid hands on royalty. Idrian staggers to his feet, telling everyone to stand back. He reminds them this was his own request. He's wiping blood from his mouth, looking at his hands. He jokes that he told Bale to stop him, but he didn't say Bale had to knock him flat. Inside his chest, his mana is a chaotic mess. He seriously thought his mana heart was going to split apart from the pressure. He realizes that a quad-chain knight like Bale is on a completely different level than the trash nobles he's been fighting, but he's smiling. He won the spar, and more importantly, he survived his own power. Later, Bale walks into Idrian's room. Our guy is sitting on his bed, looking way too happy for someone who just got stomped. Bale wants answers. Just what in the world did you do? He calls Idrian's sword wicked and unjust. He's genuinely disturbed by the darkness and killing intent he felt. Idrian gives him the most cryptic answer possible. I merely stayed true to the essence of the sword. He looks Bale right in the eye, zero fear. Bale is stunned. This kid has never seen a real battlefield, yet he's talking about the essence of killing? He realizes that to Idrian, the sword is nothing but a tool for death. It's blatant and unpleasant. But that too is one of the truths, Bale admits. Idrian is actually surprised. He expected a long sermon about knightly honor and righteousness. Bale smirks. He tells Idrian he isn't a knight in the traditional sense, he's a soldier. He walks the path of victory, not the path of righteousness. This is a huge moment. Bale and Idrian actually have common ground now. However, Bale drops a warning. He says Idrian's sword goes too far. When killing intent is that excessive, you lose the ability to tell friends from enemies. Idrian just shrugs. That's why you're here to fix that, isn't it? He's basically telling Bale that his job is to be the leash. Bale agrees. He'll watch to see if Idrian is devoured by his own heart demon. 3 days of practice sparring pass. Idrian has been folding every challenger like a lawn chair. He admits it was grueling work, essentially acting as a therapist with a sword for 3 straight days. He walks up to Taylor, who is looking defeated. He mocks him a bit, saying it's a shame he couldn't even kick the prince's ass once. Then Idrian signals a maid to bring something out. It's a heavy, ornate chest. Taylor is confused. Idrian brings up the banquet humiliation from years ago. He says he doesn't know if this will put Taylor at ease, but he hands over the chest, filled with valuables and a formal letter of apology to the Baron. He tells Taylor to be careful on his way home. Taylor is stunned. He thanks the prince, his grudge completely evaporated. Idrian thinks to himself that he has no obligation to clean up the original Idrian's mess, but if you make someone work, you have to pay the price. This is the MC playing the long game politics. Word spreads through the kingdom. People were expecting Idrian to be humiliated, but after several days, the news they expected never arrived. When people ask Taylor how it went, he and the other knights start talking about how it was just a misunderstanding and that the prince is actually full of sincerity. The other nobles are furious. They think the royal family silenced everyone with threats. Cut to Gillian, the third prince. He slams his fist onto a table. Silence my ass! He knows exactly what happened. They're just embarrassed because they lost to a pig, so they shut their mouths. Idrian is back at training. Bale is watching, telling him that the nobles are wasting time with rumors. Idrian sees another knight holding a chest. He grabs him and tells him to make sure the sparring results are spread properly. He's leaning into the villain persona to keep people away. He thinks the rumors should die down now. What? A maid tells him there's a new rumor, that he falsified the sparring results through intimidation. Idrian is officially done with high society. He decides to just train. He's over the drama. He starts swinging, his movements getting faster and faster. The mana is flowing through him perfectly now. He's refining the Dragon Slayer forms. He strikes down, cutting through the air with a literal blade of blue mana. He finishes his form, breathing hard. He asks Carls how many sparring opponents are left. Carls tells him today's visitor is the very last one. Idrian is bored. Apprentice knights aren't enough to satisfy him anymore. Carls notes that this last one is different. They've properly learned the sword. This person joined a knight order to train their blade. A true talent. Idrian reads the name. Arwen Kurgan. The gates open. The guards notice the emblem on her armor, the Iron Lion Order. We get the hype up. A flower blooming on a cliff. A thorny rose. She's the woman who has broken the hearts of every man in the kingdom. She walks in, her steps confident and steady. The guards are losing their minds over her beauty, but there's a coldness to her. People wonder if the prince is about to finally get his humiliation. She looks up, her eyes sharp and purple. She is Arwen Kurgan, and she's not here for a practice match. She's here to see if the rumors of the trash prince are true. The Iron Lion Order. In this kingdom, that name is the gold standard for reputation and raw power. Adrian is looking at the girl standing in his courtyard and wondering why a certified genius would waste her time dueling a scoundrel like him. Carls mentions there was a misunderstanding in the past, and Adrian already knows he probably did something stupid. He grabs a nearby maid and demands the truth about what the original Adrian did to this woman. The maid looks like she'd rather swallow a sword than answer, but she finally spills it. The original Prince Adrian sexually harassed Arwen Kurgan. Adrian's reaction is all of us. He is physically recoiling at the absolute L his predecessor left him to clean up. We get a flashback to the actual event. The old Adrian, looking like a human thumb in a suit, was hitting on Arwen and offered to make her his direct maid. He actually tried to touch her, and Arwen handled it the way any professional would. She reminded him that the Night Order isn't his personal sandbox. He responded by calling her an ugly thing, which is objectively the most delusional take in history. Back in the present, Adrian is dying inside. He looks at her and realizes that calling her ugly was just the twisted coping mechanism of a hopeless loser. She's stunning, but more importantly, she looks like she could kill him with a toothpick. Arwen offers a cold greeting, noting that the prince hasn't changed a bit. Adrian tries to play it off, saying he's a different person inside, which is technically the truth, but she's not buying it. She just gives him a look that says, "I'm here for your head," and Adrian accepts that this is just more of his inherited karma. Uncle Bale arrives to referee, looking like he's walking into a funeral. He greets Arwen, who reports in with the discipline of a top-tier soldier. Bale tells her to be careful because the prince's sword is lethal, and Adrian is offended that his own uncle is giving the opponent metastrats. Bale drops the flag. Both of them take their positions. The duel officially begins. Arwen drops into a low stance, and the ground literally cracks under her pressure. Adrian smirks, ready to see what the Iron Lion's best prospect actually has under the hood. She moves like a lightning bolt. Adrian's eyes track her, noting that her movements are actually decent for this era. The first clash sends sparks flying across the courtyard. Adrian immediately feels the strain. His mana is already starting to backflow because their power levels are too close. Arwen's face is a mask of pure focus. She's not playing around. She's dragging him across the courtyard, unloading a flurry of strikes that Adrian can barely parry. He realizes that if he stays on the defensive, he's cooked. Arwen prepares for a finishing blow. Adrian doesn't have a choice. He activates the Dragon Slayer's heart. The red mana erupts, and Arwen's eyes go wide. She's forced to leap back as the temperature in the courtyard suddenly spikes. She prepares another lunge, but she's hesitant now. She's staring at his sword, sensing a will that shouldn't exist in a trash prince. Adrian wipes some sweat away, acknowledging that she's on a completely different level than the nobodies he fought yesterday. He decides to use his authority, Deep Seat, to read her stats. Arwen Kurgan, 19 years old. Her swordsmanship is A rank, and she has the sword prodigy and matchless beauty traits, but the one that matters is strong outside, soft interior. She's acting tough to hide her vulnerability. Adrian spits out some blood. He realizes that since he can read her stats even with his limited authority, it means they are currently at a similar power level. He launches forward. The real fight begins now, and it's a blur of pink and blue mana. The sun starts to set. Adrian is gasping, and Arwen is drenched in sweat, her armor scuffed. They're standing at opposite ends of the courtyard, both reaching their limits. The training swords are literally vibrating from the output. Bale steps in and calls it. Stop. That's enough for today. Adrian is annoyed, claiming he was just about to finish things up. Arwen snaps back, saying she was going to do the same. The sparks between them are literal at this point. Bale doesn't care about their egos. He orders both of them to get treated by the physician immediately. The royal doctor rushes over to Adrian, checking his bruises like a worried grandmother. Adrian ignores him, his eyes locked on Arwen as she gets treated nearby. She looks frustrated, her pride clearly taking a hit. They turn their backs on each other and walk away. Arwen vows that she won't lose tomorrow, no matter what. The scene transitions to the courtyard the next day. The guards are gossiping, noting that this is the third day of their duel and it's still a stalemate. They're actually starting to respect Adrian, which is the biggest miracle of the series so far. The two combatants face off again under the evening sun. Adrian stops before they clash. He has something to say. Arwen asks if he's trying to apologize now. She tells him she won't accept any apologies, she wants to win her pride back through strength. Adrian laughs. It's nothing like that. He suggests that since they're fighting this hard, there should be a prize. The loser grants the winner a single wish. He even offers to grovel if he loses. The guards are horrified. They scream at him to take it back, because a prince groveling would be a national scandal. Adrian tells the outsiders to shut up and looks at Arwen. She hesitates, reminding him she's a member of the order that serves his family, but then she smirks. As long as your highness permits it, I believe I'm entitled to a prize. Adrian's mana flares red. Good decision. She lunges. The clash is the loudest one yet. She goes for a high strike, but Adrian parries and comes in low, his eyes glowing. Arwen realizes he's even faster than yesterday. She wonders if he was hiding his skills this entire time. They trade a dozen blows in 5 seconds. Arwen's sword is nearly knocked out of her hand. She recovers, but Adrian is already on her. She's panting, her vision blurring from the pressure of his Dragonslayer aura. Adrian puts everything into one final strike. He swings with the will of 1,000 wars. The training sword can't handle it and starts to shatter. The impact creates a massive burst of red light. Both their swords fly into the air, broken into pieces. Arwen falls to her knees, defeated. Bale and the knights are frozen. The trash prince just outdueled a prodigy from the Iron Lion Order. Arwen is staring at the ground, whispering that it's impossible. Adrian stands over her, his shadow looming large. It seems I won the bet, he calls her name, his voice calm and authoritative. He gives her that signature, I've got you now grin. Arwen Kurgan, I want you. We open with Kals, the escort knight. He's reflecting on his job guarding the infamous delinquent prince. He remembers meeting Adrian and thinking the prince was just another arrogant brat. But lately, things have been different. Contrary to the rumors, the prince doesn't lash out for no reason anymore. Kals watches Adrian training in the pouring rain, day after day. The other guards want to stop him, thinking it's dangerous, but Kals sees the intensity in Adrian's eyes. Adrian strikes the training dummy with a literal bolt of mana. He's smiling through the exhaustion, and Kals is starting to realize he's witnessing the birth of a legend. He had a feeling Adrian would become a great man. But then, the I want you moment happened. The guards are losing their minds, calling the prince shameless for hitting on Arwen right after beating her. Kals is dying inside, wondering if he completely misjudged the prince's character. Arwen is trembling on the floor. She asks if that is truly what his highness desires, to have her as a mistress. Adrian laughs it off. He tells her that currently she's just an ordinary trainee who can't even beat a delinquent prince. He clarifies his wish. He doesn't want her body, he wants her potential and her future. I need a knight who follows me. He specifies not someone assigned by the king, but a knight who belongs solely to him. He looks her in the eyes, acknowledging that she has considerable talent that is being wasted in the order. He issues the command. Therefore, Arwen Kurgan, become my knight. We get a flashback to Arwen's life. She became the knight she always dreamed of, but her striking appearance became a curse. Nobody treated her as a knight. They treated her as a trophy or a flower. She worked 10 times harder than the men, defeating every trainee in the order, proving her strength again and again, and yet the results never changed. The other knights just called her their poster girl. She realized she could never truly become a knight in their eyes. Until now. She looks at Adrian and wonders if he's the first person to actually see her blade instead of her face. The sun sets over the palace. Arwen looks up and makes one request. Promise me one thing. Treat me not as a woman, but as a knight. If he does that, she will follow his will to the end. They lock eyes in a moment of genuine mutual respect. Adrian promises. Arwen stands up, drops to one knee, and performs the formal oath. Arwen, eldest daughter of House Kurgan, swears loyalty to Prince Adrian. She dedicates her sword and her life to him. Bale is watching from the shadows, silent. He knows the political landscape of the palace just shifted. Adrian draws his sword for the ceremony. Be brave, be courteous, and be loyal. The trash prince just knighted the kingdom's most famous beauty. The news spreads, and the reactions are exactly what you'd expect. The other trainee knights are furious, trying to find a way to nullify the vow. Rumors start smelling fishy. People assume they have a secret relationship and that the knight's oath is just a cover for her being his mistress. Adrian hears the rumors and loses his mind. What am I, some axis of evil? He's offended that people think he's the world's greatest villain just for hiring a competent guard. Kals is standing nearby, looking awkward. He calls out to the prince. He brings up the conversation they had on the day of the final spar. He remembers Adrian saying he wants a knight who belongs solely to him. Kals asks if that bothered him, and Adrian confirms it's just the truth. Kals is a royal guard, not his guard. Adrian jokes that Kals could swear an oath later if he really wanted to. Kals takes it seriously. If I were to say I wish to swear an oath, would you accept it? Adrian immediately says no. His reason? Kals is no fun to train, so I don't like him. Kals actually starts laughing. He realizes the prince isn't joking, he's being 100% honest about his preferences. A maid arrives with a letter. The king has lifted Adrian's confinement a month and a half early. Adrian is suspicious. He remembers the king acting like he never wanted to see his son again. The maid asks if he's pleased to be free. Adrian says, not particularly, because he doesn't have anyone to meet anyway. But then the maid mentions another invitation. An invitation? She hands him a fancy envelope. It's for a social club for distinguished young lords. Adrian is confused why he's a member. The maid tries to explain what kind of place it is, but we see the reality. It's a gathering of rich brats who drink themselves stupid and chase women. Adrian throws the paper aside. He has no time for useless nonsense when he could be training, but then his eyes catch a name on the second page. From Bernardo of House Eli, eternal friend of the wise and prudent Prince Adrian. Eli? Adrian remembers that name. His uncle mentioned them. House Eli were the only nobles who stuck to the Manhwa heart system until they fell into ruin 100 years ago. Adrian changes his mind immediately. He tells the maid to prepare his things. He hopes the Eli family isn't completely beyond saving yet. He's going to find the last remnants of his ancient legacy. The royal tailor is losing his mind with joy because he finally has a canvas that isn't a circle. Adrian's vibe has completely shifted. He's ditched the I'm a rich brat look for something sleek and functional. The tailor is yapping about noble demeanor, but honestly, Adrian just looks like he's ready to solo a dungeon. His measurements have literally halved. The trash prince is officially gone, replaced by someone who actually looks like they could hold a sword without falling over. The tailor wants to start on the banquet clothes immediately, sensing a big commission, but Adrian tells him to wait. He knows his body is still evolving, and he's going to be even leaner by the time the party starts. A few days later, it's time to head to that special prince's social club. Kals is leading the escort, looking as stoic as ever. He's starting to get used to the prince's new schedule. Inside the carriage, Adrian is yawning. He's finding the whole being a prince thing way more exhausting than actually fighting dragons. The clothes, the carriage, the constant babysitting, he feels suffocated by the protocol. He glances over at the maid sitting across from him. She flinches the second their eyes meet. This is the same maid who's been serving him for months. Adrian notices a faint, jagged scar on her neck and asks where she got it. She immediately blames herself, saying His Highness's reprimand was fitting. Adrian realized the old him was a complete menace. The flashbacks of his predecessor's behavior are enough to make him want to possess a different body entirely. He realizes he doesn't even know her name, despite her being around him every single day. He asks her directly. Her name is Adelia Byron. Adrian freezes. The name Byron is barely a footnote in the current noble directories, but to an ancient sentient sword, that name carries the weight of 1,000 years. He flashes back to the era before kingdoms even existed. It was a time of pure chaos, where humans were nothing but prey for monsters. There were 5 individuals who put an end to that era. They were the 5 electors, the legendary founders who made humans the dominant species on the continent. One of those 5 heroes was a woman who called Gruhorn friend. She was his master, his rival, and the one who asked him what they would do after the war ended. He remembers her standing on a pile of monster corpses, looking toward the future. She had eyes that could cut through steel. She took the head of the king of the giants. With one stroke, she severed the chains of plunder that had held humanity down for centuries. She was the iron-blooded sword empress, and her family name was Byron. Adrian is staring at Adelia, realizing he's looking at the direct descendant of one of his oldest friends. He remembers the Sword Empress's final moments, surrounded by the giants she had slain. She was furious that the trash of the world was trying to pick up the scraps of what she built. She hated the vultures who only came out once the danger was gone. She called them stupid, saying they only knew how to behave like garbage. She died hating the fact that her world would eventually be run by people like the old Adrian. Adrian clenches his fists as the memory fades. He feels like his ears are being defiled just by being in this carriage, knowing how far the Byron name has fallen. He wonders what could have possibly happened to turn a family of world savers into a line of abused maids. Adelia is just looking at him with those big, terrified eyes, completely unaware of her own history. The carriage stops. They've arrived at the club. Kals opens the door, but Adrian stays seated for a second. The timing is actually perfect. He was looking for a reason to care about this party, and he just found one. He steps out onto the pavement. He points a finger at Adelia and tells her they're going to have a very long talk later. She looks like she's about to faint from the pressure. "Your Highness!" a voice calls out. Bernardo of House Eli presents himself, bowing with a greasy smile. Adrian analyzes him instantly. This is the guy whose family lost everything to the Manhwa heart system. He looks like a textbook definition of a reckless troublemaker. Bernardo is shocked that Adrian is so thin now, assuming he's been exhausted by something. Adrian gives him a look that is way too sharp for a casual greeting. Bernardo asks if his body is still uncomfortable, but Adrian just grins. He tells Bernardo he's just glad he came and pats him on the shoulder like a predator marking his territory. Bernardo is confused by the sudden change in vibe, but he leads the way inside. Inside, the club is exactly the trash fire Adrian expected. Drunk nobles are bragging about their exploits and harassing women. It's side character behavior, the animation. Adrian sits down, looking completely out of place among the degenerates. Bernardo is watching him, noting that normally Adrian would be the first one face down in a bowl of wine, but our guy is just staring at his glass, looking focused and dangerous. A random noble heir plops down next to him, reeking of alcohol. He's laughing, saying he heard the rumors about the prince. He brings up the fact that Adrian defeated Arwen Kurgan, the flower of the Iron Lion Order. Adrian doesn't say a word. He's just letting the guy dig his own grave. The noble says he's been targeting Arwen for a while and is annoyed the prince secured her first. He starts yapping about how he wonders what her bare skin looks like under that armor. Adrian finally speaks. Hey, do you have a younger sibling at home? Bernardo is sweating now. He knows that tone. Adrian repeats that it's fortunate the guy has a sibling. Adrian doesn't wait for an answer. He launches a fist into the noble's jaw with enough force to rearrange his DNA. Glass shatters. The room goes silent. The other nobles are frozen in shock. They can't believe the trash prince just committed violence in public. Bernardo is looking at Adrian like he's a total stranger. Adrian looks down at the bleeding noble on the floor. It's a relief that your family line won't be severed. He delivers a brutal kick to the guy's chest. He stands over the entire club, his aura turning the room cold. Adrian isn't done. He pulls his fist back for a follow-up. He lands another brutal blow on the noble's face. This isn't a spar, it's an eviction. The women in the club are screaming, and even the other special princes are backing away. Adrian grabs the guy by his fancy collar and hauls him up. Bernardo is stuttering, asking what on earth the prince is doing. Adrian looks the noble right in his swollen eyes and tells him to listen carefully. I can tolerate being thought of as a brute, but I cannot tolerate being treated like one. The entire room is confused. In their heads, Adrian is the brute. They don't understand the nuance of the hero maker. He decides the guy hasn't learned his lesson yet and delivers one more punch for good measure. The impact sends the noble flying through a table. Total KO. Adrian stands in the middle of the wreckage looking like he just finished a light workout. The guy is out cold. His career as a distinguished lord officially over. Bernardo drops to his knees. He's realized that the madman he knew has been replaced by a monster. Adrian gives him a terrifying, blood-splattered smile. I told you today would be very enjoyable. Bernardo is shaking. He has no idea why the prince is acting like this. Adrian barks an order. Go and summon the royal knights. Bernardo scrambles out of the room, eager to get as far away from Adrian as possible. Adrian looks around the club. It's a mess of broken furniture and terrified socialites. He's covered in blood, but his expression is as calm as a summer lake. He turns to the group of women standing in the corner and tells them to get out. One of the remaining nobles tries to sneak away, looking terrified. His feet are literally trembling as he tries to moonwalk out of the room. Adrian's voice stops him dead. I said women. He tells the men that if they want to leave, they can, but they have to leave as women. He's basically telling them they're cowards without a shred of dignity. The atmosphere is suffocating. Adrian is just standing there waiting for the knights. Footsteps approach. The royal knights arrive, but they find a scene they weren't prepared for. Adrian starts listing their crimes. They didn't kneel, they showed no respect, they mocked a royal prince to his face, and most importantly, they insulted his personal knight, Arwen. He turns to the knights and asks what charges apply to such behavior. Cals enters, his face set in stone. He declares that they have shown contempt for royalty, which is a crime. The nobles are going pale. They thought they were just hanging out with the trash prince. Cals adds the finisher, and on top of that, you encroached upon royal authority, which is tantamount to treason. Cals asks for the order. Whom shall we make kneel? Adrian gives that main character smirk. All of them. Cut to the palace. King Leonberg is looking at Adrian like his son just started a third world war. The king is screaming. Adrian caused a massive spectacle the second his confinement was lifted. He's taken 14 noble heirs into custody on charges of treason. The king points out that they can't just ignore the backlash from 14 powerful families. Adrian just smiles. Are you worried about backlash? He explains his logic. These heirs were incurable trash that their own families had already given up on. He tells the king to send out letters. The king asks who they should write to. The brothers and sisters of those captured brutes. Adrian is literally starting a succession war inside 14 different houses to secure their loyalty. The king is silent. He realized his son just executed a perfect political checkmate. He dismisses Adrian, but you can tell the disappointment is starting to turn into fear. Adrian gets back to his palace and finds Adelia waiting for him. She's terrified, crying and asking what wrong she committed. Adrian realizes the old him must have tormented her badly for her to be this broken. He remembers her name, Bayern. He reflects on how a direct line of heroes was erased from history, their techniques severed and their pride stolen. He looks at her and activates his authority to see her stats one more time. Adelia Bayern, 17 years old. Swordsmanship, S rank. Mana sensitivity, A rank. Her traits are a mess, butcher, war maniac, timid, and slave mentality. Adrian is shocked by the balance of these traits. Butcher makes her insane at the sight of blood. War maniac makes her obsessed with battle, but timid and slave mentality keep her passive. She has talent with no equal, but not a single trait to restrain the madness if it ever breaks out. He wonders if it's really okay to unleash someone like this upon the world. He looks at her standing there, a world-class weapon disguised as a shivering maid. He decides he has to try. You don't let an S-rank talent go to waste. He spots a trait he can exploit, slave mentality. It sounds dark, but it means she derives joy from serving a master with devotion. He walks up to her and tells her to swear her loyalty to him. Adelia is confused. She's already a maid. She's already serving him. I'm telling you to become my knight. Swear it here and now. Adelia falls to the floor, saying this is far beyond what she can bear. Adrian tells her he knows her family is insignificant, but he will personally take responsibility for House Bayern. In return, she must serve him as her master and her sword. If you cannot control your own madness, then I will personally hold its reins. She asks if he will truly take responsibility for her family. Adrian promises to bring them to the capital so she can see them whenever she wants. Adelia finally breaks. Adelia, eldest daughter of House Bayern, swears loyalty to Prince Adrian. She vows to serve him for life. Adrian puts a hand on her head. Good. He tells her that from now on she must obey him unconditionally. Adelia looks up, and for the first time there's a flicker of something other than fear in her eyes. Adrian watches her, a drop of sweat on his face. I did the right thing, didn't I? The kingdom's rumor mill is currently working overtime, and honestly, can you blame them? Our guy spent months being a quiet shut-in, only to come back and immediately start acting like a high-tier Discord mod with admin perms. The word on the street is that the first prince is back to his thug ways, arresting noble kids and, most importantly, forming a harem under the guise of direct knights. Adrian is just sitting there thinking, since when did everyone start paying this much attention to me? He's trying to be a warlord, but the kingdom thinks he's playing a dating sim. Arwen is standing behind him like, yeah, I'm used to the stares by now. And then there's the king. He's got a massive migraine from cleaning up Adrian's political messes, and now he hears his son is indulging in women. Uncle Bale is even more disappointed. He's looking at Adrian like he just caught him trying to eat a crayon during a strategy meeting. Then we have the third prince, Gillian. Look at that smug face. He's practically vibrating with I'm the favorite child energy. Adrian is just exhausted. Rumors spread faster than a leaked patch note in this kingdom, and he really doesn't have the mana for this today. He's literally at his limit when the maid announces the queen has arrived. Our guy's reaction is a mood. The queen walks in and basically tells him his rehabilitation was a fluke. She thinks he's relapsing into his old trashy habits, but instead of a lecture, she has a solution, and the smile on her face tells you exactly what it is: marriage. She thinks if she finds him a wife, he'll stop wandering and starting riots in social clubs. Trust your mother, she says, which is royal code for I've already picked out 3 candidates and you're going to hate all of them. Adrian is just staring into the void. He's an ancient sentient weapon, and he's being defeated by a mother who wants grandkids. Once he's finally alone, it's time to get back to work. Adelia is terrified. She's never even held a fork correctly, and now he's talking about giving her mana. Adrian tells her it's going to be a special kind. He's not giving her the modern watered-down stuff, he's giving her the raw source code. He starts the process. In this world, the Sword Empress is a myth. But Adrian was there. He remembers her footprints, her style, and the way the world looked when she was the strongest thing on 2 legs. He's not just teaching Adelia, he's resurrecting a legacy. He places his hands on her, and the aura shift is immediate. It's heavy, golden, and ancient. The sound of her heart starts pounding. This isn't just a training session, it's a physical rewrite of her biology. Adelia feels it. For the first time in her life, the world isn't just cold and scary, it's full of mana. The system confirms it. Mana has successfully settled within the body. Her eyes snap open, and they look different. The butcher trait is still there, but now it has an engine to run on. A mana heart has been created. She's no longer just a maid, she's a weapon in progress. Adrian explains that this was the heart method. He basically tells her to go practice in her room whenever she has 5 minutes, like it's Duolingo or something. But then, the backlash hits. Creating a heart for someone else is insanely taxing. Adrian stumbles. Adelia panics, but Adrian is just annoyed. He realized that even with his knowledge, this frail prince body has its limits. He tries to play it cool. I'm just tired. Classic main character behavior, bleeding internally but insisting it's just a scratch. He tells her to leave, but Adelia lingers. She's looking at him with an expression that should probably be alarming. Adrian notices. Why are you looking at me like that? And here it is. The trait kicks in. She bows so hard her forehead probably leaves a dent in the floor. She swears unwavering loyalty for the rest of her life. Adrian just gives her that all according to plan smirk. Adelia is happy. She's finally found someone who is stronger than her trauma. Adrian watches her go, feeling satisfied, but then he turns back with those glowing eyes. Truly, he's making sure she knows he owns her now. A few days later, Things have calmed down slightly. Arwen comes in with an update on Bernardo Eli. Bernardo is currently being detained as a witness. Basically, the palace guards are holding him in a room until they figure out whose side he's on. Adrian asks if he has to show up for a trial. Arwen reminds him that royalty doesn't stand before the court. That is the best news he's heard all week. Zero paperwork is a massive W. He notices Adelia cleaning a vase in the corner. She's been quiet lately. He asks her how she's been. She jumps like she just got caught stealing from the pantry. He's checking on her mana heart. It should be stabilizing by now if she's actually been practicing. Good. He stands up. He's done with the royal meetings. It's time for some actual training. He tells her to change her clothes and meet him at the training grounds. And put that rag down already. You're a knight now. He's literally promoting her while she's still mid-dusting. At the training grounds, Adrian is warming up. He's lean, fast, and looks nothing like the trash prince from Chapter 1. A voice interrupts him. Someone is definitely not happy with the current itinerary. It's Uncle Bale. He's standing there looking like the final boss of disappointed relatives. He's pointing at Adelia, who is currently running laps and looking like she's about to meet God. Bale heard the rumors. He thought Adrian making a maid a knight was a joke or a cover for something perverted. Do knights look that trivial to you? He's genuinely offended. To a quad-chain knight, the title is sacred. Adrian is immediately annoyed. Why have you become so meddlesome? He just wants to train his secret weapon in peace. Adelia finishes her 10th lap and collapses. She looks pathetic, which only proves Bale's point. She's gasping for air, clutching her chest. Bale is just shaking his head in the background. Adrian ignores his uncle's judgment. He has zero interest in explaining himself to people who can't see the stats he sees. He hands Adelia a training sword. She's trembling, apologizing for being an embarrassment. It's fine. I'll just teach you the basic stance today. Adrian is being surprisingly patient. He demonstrates a swing, one single movement. The air actually screams as the blade passes through. He tells her to try it once. Just once. Adelia gets into position. She's shaky. Her posture is a mess. It looks like she's trying to swing a baseball bat for the first time. But then, her eyes change. The gold flares up. She moves. The impact shakes the ground. It's not just a swing, it's a perfect replica of Adrian's move. Bale's jaw practically hits the dirt. He was expecting a maid swing. He got a sonic boom. Even Adrian is sweating. She copied that after seeing it just once? That's not just talent, that's an S-rank cheat code. Adelia turns back, looking all shy and worried. Was my posture correct? Adrian realizes something terrifying. If he spaces out for even a second, his own student is going to overtake him. He remembers the nature of her. It isn't about being weak. It's about submitting to the strongest. If she ever perceives someone else as stronger than Adrian, her loyalty might shift. Or worse, if she becomes stronger than him, the dynamic breaks. He can't let that happen. He needs to remain the absolute peak in her eyes. Bale is still processing the talent he just saw. He's starting to realize this maid is actually a monster. But Bale decides he's seen enough. He steps forward, probably planning to take her under his wing for the greater cause. Adrian snaps. Don't get any ideas. Bale smirks. What could you possibly do for that child? You've only held a sword for a few months. The atmosphere in the training ground turns freezing. Adrian releases his grip on his soul. Bale feels it first. It's like a mountain just dropped on his shoulders. Adrian's internal monologue is cold. He knows the trash prince would be trembling, but I'm not him. A massive blue and black aura erupts behind Adrian. It doesn't look like mana, it looks like a nightmare. The images of the giant king and the mad dragon flicker behind him. These are the things Gruhorn has killed. These are the things he is. Centuries of blood and war start pouring out of his soul. The image of the demon sword Gruhorn appears, piercing the ground. The system alerts us. At the user's will, a part of the soul is revealed outwardly. Adrian's eyes are glowing red. He looks like he's about to start a war by himself. Bale is sweating. He's a quad-chain master, and he's genuinely intimidated by a novice. Adrian points at Adelia. He isn't being polite anymore. She is mine. Do not even look, nor covet her. Adrian is laying down the law. He tells Bale that he very much dislikes it when people try to touch his property. He's talking about Adelia like she's a legendary item he just finished grinding for. Bale actually backs off. Adelia is standing in the background, confused but clearly affected by the sheer weight of Adrian's soul. Adrian's eye flickers. He's losing control. He feels like he's drowning. Reality is fading away. He's floating in a dark void. The soul of Gruhorn is too big for this body. It's like trying to run a high-end PC game on a calculator. Something is going to catch fire. He feels the cold and the darkness. The demon sword is looming over him. If he doesn't pull back now, Adrian will be erased and only the weapon will remain. He's being clawed at by 1,000 hands. This is the cost of flexing your soul when you're still technically a novice. This is as far as it goes. He forces himself back to reality. The aura vanishes. The pressure lifts. He's back on the training ground, gasping for air. One last spark of energy dissipates. He stands up. He's pale, but he's still standing. Bale tries to pivot back to his greater cause. He explains his logic. One ordinary knight saves 10 soldiers, one exceptional knight saves 100, and a monster like Adelia, she could save thousands. Bale wants to use her for the kingdom. He thinks it's her conviction to serve the crown. He's the frontier commander. He only thinks in terms of war and casualties. Adrian just sighs. There is no need. Bale is about to argue, but then Adelia speaks. My body and heart already belong to His Highness. She says it with zero hesitation. Bale is stunned. Adrian just smiles internally. Thea is a hell of a drug. She is bound to submit to the highest ranking being she knows. And right now, that's him. Is that so? Adrian rubs it in. He tells his uncle that there's nothing left for him to teach. From the start, Bale was just a tool to help him burn off the fat. If you wish to continue visiting my palace, then do not interfere in my affairs anymore. He's basically banning his uncle from his room. Bale agrees, but he's clearly not done. The text tells us he kept visiting anyway. He claims he's just watching over Adelia. Adrian thinks it's hilarious. Watching his arrogant uncle squirm is the best entertainment he's had since he woke up in this body. Then Adelia does it again. She's swinging the sword and something resonates. Bale's eyes go wide. Don't tell me she's already learned sword resonance? That's a high-level master skill. Adrian is clapping like a proud stage mom. There, well done. But internally, he's sweating. If she keeps this up, he's going to have to start grinding 24/7 just to keep his master status. Bale loses his cool. He asks if Adrian taught her the mana heart system too. Yeah, what's wrong with that? Bale explodes. He calls the mana heart a crude trick. He thinks Adrian is ruining a genius talent with obsolete mercenary trash. Adrian's expression goes cold. Leave. He doesn't even look at him. Bale is fuming. He thinks there was a far better path for her. Adrian tells Cals to drag his uncle out. Cals is just standing there like, please don't make me fight a quad-chain knight. Bale leaves on his own, but the tension is thick enough to cut. Adelia is worried. She asks if what she learned is actually a crude art. No, absolutely not. Adrian is firm. She asks why the Count would speak that way then. Adrian explains that the people of this era have completely forgotten what a true mana heart is. They threw it away like a worn-out shoe because it was too hard to master. You'll come to understand soon the true power of the mana heart. A target dummy explodes. Later that day, Bale returns. He can't leave it alone. He challenges Adrian to a duel. He says he will only use a single ring of his mana chain. If you push me back even half a step, I will acknowledge you. Adrian checks the terms. What was the wager again? Granting a wish? Adrian is already thinking of how to use this. Bale offers secret family techniques, but Adrian just smirks. That's not what I want. He's got something much bigger in mind. Bale charges. He's impressed. Adrian went for the neck immediately. Still as lethal a blade as ever. Steel meets steel. Adrian is pushing his physical limits. They clash again and again. A training spear is kicked up. The impact splits the air. Bale is smiling. Is that all? Adrian is struggling. He's up against a master who is holding back, and it's still nearly too much. He slides back, grounding himself. Bale asks if he's given up. Of course not. Adrian admits his uncle is strong. He knows Bale is just waiting for him to run out of mana. With a normal mana heart, he would lose. Bale is playing the long game. Adrian starts laughing. Don't you find it strange? Bale is confused. Adrian explains history. 400 years ago, mana heart knights were gods. They achieved unbelievable feats. But because the mana chain was easier and more consistent, everyone dismissed the old ways as worthless. Everyone thinks the chain is superior. I disagree. The weak one wasn't the mana heart, but its wielder. He's basically calling the entire modern era skill issue. He asks Bale if he's heard of the poem of martial merit. Bale thinks he's just talking about poetry. He's annoyed by the flashy talk. That's exactly what I expected you to say. Bale tells him he talks too much. He asks if he needs more time to catch his breath. No. Adrian explains the secret. A knight's path becomes an achievement. Bale is confused as a status window appears. Singing of 100 victories, achievements are etched into the heart. They become the poem of martial merit. It dwells in the sword. The system confirms a has been generated. It's the sum of every small victory Adrian has had over the past half year. The effect activates. Adrian's blade starts glowing with an impossible light. All right, we're back in the dirt, and the status window is officially screaming. The is live, and Adrian's aura is looking less like a prince and more like a final boss. Bale is still standing there with his Logic 101 textbook, telling Adrian that a mana heart can't beat a mana chain. This man is really trying to explain the meta to the guy who literally coded it. Adrian moves. His eyes are glowing blue, and he's closing the gap like he's got a teleport glitch. Steel meets steel, and the impact sends a shockwave through the ground. Bale isn't smiling anymore, he's actually having to put in effort. Here's the technical problem. In the modern meta, Ring Mana has a property that forces a heart's mana to backflow. It's basically a hard counter designed to make the old system obsolete. Bale is feeling smug because he thinks the biology of the world is on his side. He's pushing Adrian back, waiting for that heart to stall out. He even gives Adrian a little credit, telling him he's good at stubbornly enduring. It's the kind of condescending praise you give a toddler who almost tied their own shoes. But look at Adrian's face. That is the smirk of a man who just finished baiting his opponent into a corner. To get this specific poem, Adrian had to spar over 100 times in the last few months. He endured 1,000 waves of ring mana just to learn how to nullify the backflow. This isn't just luck, it's a build specifically designed to counter everything Bale stands for. The mana around Adrian's head starts to crackle like a faulty power line. This is the true power of thee. It's a record of every hit he's taken, coming back with interest. He swings. The blade is a blur of blue light. Now I can actually put up a fight. Adrian is being modest. He's not fighting, he's conducting a lecture. The explosion of force catches Bale off guard. The wind pressure alone is tearing up the training ground. Bale is forced into a defensive block, his eyes widening as he realizes the novice just spiked in power. Adrian is coming from every angle. His movement's so fluid it looks like he's dancing through the air. He's laughing mid-swing. This is the first time he's actually had fun in this frail human body, and it shows. Bale is sweating through his armor. He can't believe a kid with a few months of training is holding out against a frontier commander. Steel clashes. The sparks flying off their blades are bright enough to blind the audience. Adrian slides back, his posture perfect, his mana still burning bright. Bale is gasping, trying to process how the math of the universe just failed him. How is this? Did I not tell you? Not all mana hearts are the same. Adrian's voice is calm, which is probably the most insulting part of this whole duel. Bale snaps. He lunges forward, his footwork cracking the stone tiles. He brings the sword down with enough force to split a carriage in half. The explosion of dust hides the result, but you can hear the impact from the other side of the palace. Bale steps out of the smoke, his mana flaring up. He's finally dropping the act. Let's stop playing around. Just lasting this long is commendable enough. Adrian is on one knee, looking battered. He notes that his current common rank saga isn't enough to finish a master. Bale starts walking toward him like he's already won. But Adrian starts talking about history. Specifically, 400 years ago, the knights made a grave mistake. Adrian explains that the ancient heroes were too good. They killed every monster, every dragon, and every threat on the continent. They left 0 enemies for their descendants to fight. At first, the arts were passed down intact. The hearts, the swordsmanship, and the sagas. But time is a monster that eats everything. Without real enemies to test themselves against, the achievements started to fade. Songs about dragons no one had seen and kings no one remembered became absurd legends to the modern era. Eventually, the legends were treated like bedtime stories for kids. Look at that cartoon dragon, that's literally how modern knights view the ancient world. New sagas were created, but they were weak. They were built by beating 10 knights or 100 soldiers. They were sagas built against mere humans. They weren't mythic or heroic, they were just average. And average things can't survive the winds of change. Adrian stares Bale down. Mana chain. You cannot reach transcendence with such trivial arts. Bale actually asks if the prince has been drinking during the day. He has no idea what Adrian is talking about because the gap in their knowledge is a literal ocean. Adrian calls him out by his full name. Bale Balorhard. You arrogant and foolish knight. You all need to know just how great a thing you have lost. Adrian's shadow starts to expand. It's not black anymore, it's a deep, bloody crimson. If you do not know, I shall teach you. The image of a massive shadow dragon starts to form behind Adrian. Its eyes are glowing with ancient malice. This is the soul of Gruhorn speaking through a human throat. The pressure is so high that the air itself feels like it's becoming liquid. The system is panicking now. Adrian is chanting but his current body literally cannot handle the rank of this poem. Warnings start popping up everywhere. Parts of the poem are being omitted because his physical form would explode if he read the whole thing. He's stripping the skill down to its bare essentials just to survive the activation, chanting only one verse, a quarter of the poem's half. It's a fraction of a fraction, and it's still more than the world can handle. Slicing through the dragon's scales, Adrian moves, his eye glowing red as he enters the flow state. Bale feels his survival instincts scream for the first time in his life. He brings up his mana chain to block. The moment their blades touch, the world goes white. Bale realizes this isn't mana, it's an absolute authority. At this rate, I'll be devoured. Bale is terrified. He realizes his soul is about to be erased by a single swing. The explosion of energy levels the entire center of the training grounds. Adrian is sent flying back, crashing into the dust. Kals and the others are shouting in the background, but the sound is muffled by the ringing in everyone's ears. The dust starts to settle. Adrian is on the ground, coughing up blood. He's a mess. but he's still conscious. He looks up at Bale. Didn't you say you would only use one ring? Bale is standing there, but his mana is glowing with all 4 rings. He had to use his full power just to not die, and it still didn't work. Bale is staring at his hand, or rather what's left of his sword. It's been sliced clean off. Adrian is trembling on the floor. He's physically done, but he's won the mental war. Bale is having a literal existential crisis. He was told the heart was inferior to the ring. He believed it was an undeniable truth. Adrian looks him dead in the eye, blood dripping down his chin. Count Bale Balerhard, you lost. The dragon is still screaming in Adrian's mind. Everything is purple and red. The recoil of using a mythological epic in a level 1 body is basically like trying to put a jet engine in a toaster. No. Stop. Adrian is fighting his own memories. He's pleading with himself to let go before his spirit completely shatters. He grabs his chest, his knuckles white as he tries to hold his soul together. He wakes up in his bed, drenched in sweat. He's trembling so hard he can barely keep his hand steady on the sheets. Damn epic of heroism! He's cursing his own power. This is the hidden cost. If you overuse an epic, your spirit takes permanent damage. The is mythological rank. It's a story about a god killer, and Adrian is currently just a guy who recently lost some weight. He checks his vitals. His body is a total wreck, but he's smiling. He thinks the price was worth it to shut his uncle up. He starts meditating. He needs to weave the memories back together. The poem of sparring starts to resonate. 100 victories are my pride and my power. He's stabilizing. The blue mana returns, much calmer than the red dragonfire from earlier. The system informs him the rank of has increased. This is basically the experience points he needs for his upcoming match with the third prince. Adelia bursts in, looking like she's about to start crying. You're finally awake! She explains that he's been out for days, and the palace is in absolute chaos. Apparently, the queen was so furious at Bale that she almost declared a civil war in the living room. Adrian just smirks. Served her right. He's talking about his uncle, obviously. He loves that his mom is giving Bale a hard time. Adelia mentions that Bale wants to be notified the second Adrian wakes up. Don't tell him just yet. I need to rest. He's enjoying the thought of Bale pacing outside his door, sweating. But then the pain flares up again. If he doesn't recover his spirit properly, he'll pay a terrible price. Memories of the past and the present will get tangled. He'd lose the boundary of reality and become a madman, endlessly reenacting his old battles in an empty room. I finally became human, only to be trapped in the memories of a sword again. The irony isn't lost on him, and it makes him shudder. He looks at Adelia. He remembers the Sword Queen, her ancestor. He tells Adelia that since she's a descendant of Bayern, she can eventually inherit the epic her ancestor left behind. Adelia is stunned. She never thought her family was anything but a source of shame and debt. Adrian notes she has a long way to go, but then he asks a very human question. What do you want to do once you learn the sword? Adelia freezes. No one has ever asked her what she wants. She was a maid, then a slave, then a tool. If I can truly become a knight? She's searching for the words. She gets all flustered and cute, looking like she's about to overheat. Adrian tells her to just tell him later if she can't think of it now. But then, something shifts in the room. Adrian feels a change in the air. Adelia stands tall. Her eyes are glowing with a terrifying intensity. I will become your highness's sword. Adrian is actually taken aback. This isn't just a maid talking anymore. Some epics begin with a charging horn. Some begin with 1,000 soldiers on a plane. And some epics begin their story with a heartfelt oath. Adelia is literally glowing as she dedicates her entire life to him. The system flares up. Adelia Bayern offers the golden light flows from her into Adrian's hands. An epic can influence others. A new is being created right here in the bedroom. Adrian gains a new skill. The is a hymn dedicated to a master. It's an oath that binds their souls together. Adrian is genuinely shocked. He can't believe a descendant of the Sword Queen, the proudest warrior in history, just wove an epic about submission. But then he feels the effect. The golden mana starts repairing his shattered spirit. He realizes he just received unexpected help. As long as he is the target of her subservience, he gets a massive buff to his recovery. Adelia is just smiling, looking incredibly happy with herself. She has no idea she just performed high-tier soul magic. Adrian thanks her, his voice softer than usual. Adelia blushes. Adrian is thinking about the future. He's not sure what direction this benefit will take yet, but he knows he's just secured a terrifyingly loyal asset. A few days later, the palace looks peaceful, but the tension is still there. Adrian is dressed in his royal uniform, looking bored but dangerous. Arwen and Adelia are behind him. They're forming quite the squad. The queen walks in and asks if Ian is feeling any better. Adrian tells her he's fine. Internally, he's realizing it's much easier to deal with people who hate him than people who actually cherish the original prince. The queen looks relieved, but also a bit sad. She's the only one who truly loved the trash version of him. She asks if he resents his uncle. She's trying to play peacemaker, telling him Bale didn't mean to harm him. Adrian says he has zero resentment. He's scratching his cheek like it's no big deal. He doesn't have resentment because he already got back at him. He denied Bale's pride and his entire worldview. What he planted in his uncle that day was a heart demon. Bale is currently having a mental breakdown because his superior mana chain got embarrassed. Adrian admits he doesn't care what happens after that. If Bale can overcome it, he'll grow. If not, he's finished. But the queen drops a bombshell. She tells him Bale was clumsy and blunt, but he actually thought highly of Adrian lately. In fact, it was Bale who persuaded the king to lift Adrian's house arrest earlier than scheduled. Adrian's face goes blank. He realized Bale was the one who got him his freedom. He remembers how Bale was acting displeased after the Noble Club incident. He realizes Bale was probably stressed out from having to defend Adrian's actions to the king. Adrian sits back, his fingers interlaced. Why would that man do that for me? Meet Niccolo Machiavel. He's the kind of old scholar who looks like he has a passive buff to wisdom and annoying lectures. Our guy sees him and immediately gives the "I absolutely refuse" face. He didn't survive 1,000 years as a sword to sit through a PowerPoint on medieval economics. Arwen and Adelia are in the back just praying he doesn't start a riot in the library. Adrian throws a full-on royal tantrum. He's literally on the floor asking why he has to study. The scholar just hits him with the "if you don't learn, you're a beast" line. Adrian snaps back. "Are you calling me an animal?" The old man just smiles. He's got that "I've taught more princes than you've had hot meals" energy. Adrian tries the "I already know everything" defense. It's the classic move of a student who just wants to go play outside. Niccolo sees an opening. He proposes a deal, a conversation on several topics. If Adrian actually knows his stuff, the scholar leaves him alone forever. Adrian takes the bait. That smirk? That's the look of a guy who thinks he's about to speedrun a final exam. He slams the table. "Yes, exactly!" Adrian starts cooking. He explains that a ruler must always watch their back, because if you loosen your grip, people will try to climb over you. The scholar is impressed. He slides over a book called Iron-Blooded Lord. He's realizing Adrian isn't just smart, he's cynical in the way a king needs to be. They start discussing the relationship between a ruler and their subjects as a contract. The ruler provides protection, the subjects provide resources. It's basically a high-stakes subscription service. Adrian is actually engaged now. He's realizing that politics is just another form of warfare, and he's an expert in warfare. The sun starts setting. They've been at this for hours. The scholar closes his books. Let's continue tomorrow. Adrian is actually disappointed. He's gone from hating school to being the kid who asks for extra credit. He's laughing, waving the old man off. He's having the time of his life. Then he pauses. He realizes he just sat through an ordinary lesson and enjoyed it. That old man sure is sly. He realized he just got tricked into learning by a pro. Niccolo walks away, thinking that the first prince is absolutely nothing like the rumors. He's not a beast. He's a lion. The palace guards watch the scholar leave. The atmosphere is shifting. Everyone can feel the prince is becoming something different. Next day. The sun is out, and the studious phase is over. Adrian is back in his room, staring at the ceiling like a bored teenager during summer break. He's literally hanging off the bed. "I'm bored." Since he can't train while his soul is recovering, he has zero hobbies. Our guy is a literal workaholic who doesn't know how to exist without a sword in his hand. There's a knock. Adelia announces that Sir Bale, Uncle Bale, is here to see him. Adrian lights up. Finally, a visitor who isn't trying to teach him about tax codes. He thinks Bale is coming for a rematch or to nag him again. But Bale looks like he's aged 10 years. The inner demon Adrian planted is clearly eating him alive. He can't even look Adrian in the eye. "I'm sorry." The frontier commander just apologized to the trash prince. You could hear a pin drop in that room. Bale is beating himself up. He thinks he caused Adrian great harm by breaking his promise and using his full power during the spar. Adrian's internal reaction is gold. He's thinking, actually, I'm hurt because I overused my own dragon skills, but okay, I'll let you take the blame. His conscience gives him a tiny poke, but he ignores it. If Bale wants to feel guilty, that's his business. Bale tells him to state what he wants as compensation. "If you want my arm, I will give it. My eyes, I will give them." This man is being way too dramatic. Adrian's reaction is a mood. "What would I even do with your arm?" Adrian realizes Bale is trapped by a trivial mental block. To a 1,000-year-old sword, this is just silly drama. "Fine, I'll be generous." Adrian decides to use this guilt trip for a W. He's got a wish, and he's about to cash it in. "Uncle, let's go out somewhere." Bale is confused. He thinks Adrian just wants to go to a bar or something. Not just a one-day outing, somewhere farther away, outside the capital. Bale stares at him. He's realizing Adrian is planning a field trip. Bale tries to make excuses about the upcoming banquet, but Adrian doesn't care about schedules. Bale finally agrees to set it up. Cals is watching from the doorway, looking absolutely baffled. Adrian notices. "Why are you looking at me like that?" Cals admits it's unexpected. He thought the prince would ask for something unreasonable, like a mountain of gold or 100 slaves. Adrian admits that seeing the stubborn old man Bale acting like this makes him feel a tiny bit sorry. Cals is stunned. The trash prince just showed empathy? Cal starts laughing, and Adrian gets annoyed. He's realized his reputation is so bad that being a nice person is treated like a joke. Your Highness. Adelia comes in with a letter. The wax seal is red and official. The letter crackles with blue mana as Adrian opens it. It's from Arwen. She's out there in the Iron Lion Order, achieving things and making a name for herself. She says she'll visit him soon. It's basically a see you at the next event message. Adrian is pleased, everything is coming together. Fast forward 5 days. The travel arrangements are done. The carriage is rolling out of the capital. Adrian is leaning out the window like a kid on a road trip. Ellen? Ellen? Bale is riding alongside, looking annoyed already. You really can't stay quiet, can you? They are entering the county of Ellen. This place is the kingdom's industrial heart. It has an iron mine that supplies the highest quality ore and a guild of smiths who refine it. More than half of the weapons supplied to the royal family come from here. To Adrian, this is basically a toy store. He's leveled up, so he needs a sword of his own. He was going to use the royal armory, but flashback time. Cowles reminds him that by royal decree, Adrian is banned from being given any weapons. The king thinks giving him a sword is like giving a toddler a chainsaw. Adrian admits his track record makes that fair. But if he wants a weapon that won't snap, he has to get it outside the palace. He looks out at the landscape. Bale watches him. He thinks the prince looks surprisingly delicate when he's just staring at the scenery. The 20-day journey has just begun. The map shows the route. 3 days to the county of Ellen, then another 2 days to the Iron Lion stronghold. The carriage is surrounded by a full escort of knights. This isn't just a trip, it's a high-priority escort mission. Adrian is stuck inside, and he is hating every second of it. He's been sitting for 3 days straight. He looks at Adelia. She's just sitting there, being boring. The chibi art style really captures his I'm going to die of boredom energy. He can't even move around. He's just sighing. He decides to make use of the time. He checks his mana heart. It's currently empty because of the usage. He needs a refill. He starts gathering the specks of mana hidden in the environment. The jolting of the carriage, the cold breeze, even the voices of the knights outside become part of his meditation rhythm. The mana flows into him, bright and blue. He enters his inner world to check the heart. Huh? The mana heart is massive now. It's grown significantly since the last time he checked. The system pops up. Because he attempted an unbearable miracle, the Dragonslayer skill, and caught a glimpse of that monumental will, his heart expanded. The influence of the Dragonslayer has been reflected in his physical body. His constitution has changed. His body is no longer a frail prince, it's a vessel that can withstand high-level mana. The announcement drops, "You've reached the level of a sword expert." He just speed ran the entire beginner and intermediate ranks. The locks on his tattered soul are breaking. His authorities are improving, and are now significantly enhanced. He's basically becoming a living radar. Adelia notices him glowing and just blinks. Your Highness? He's got that I'm the main character grin back. He's grown another step. They finally arrive at Count Ellen's mansion. It's huge, white, and looks very expensive. Adrian steps out, looking sharp. The lords greet him. Edgar and his son Torrens are bowing, doing the whole noble welcome routine. Torrens offers to guide him to his room. Adrian is already looking around. He isn't interested in the bed, he's looking at the walls. The entire mansion is filled with various weapons. Swords, spears, axes, they're everywhere. But Adrian's inner monologue is brutal. Mere junk, all flashy and useless in actual combat. He's walking past legendary-looking displays like they're plastic toys in a cereal box. It seems the item I'm looking for won't be found here. He turns to the Lord. Did you say the blacksmith guild is in the area? I'd like to take a look around there. He's going straight to the source code. They set off for the guild. The Count warns him that blacksmiths are rough and stubborn. He says they won't even give the Lord attention when they're working. They're cold and rough like metal. Adrian just smiles. He's a sword. He likes metal people. They enter the forge. The heat is intense, and the air is thick with soot and sparks. The sound of metal being hammered is everywhere. It's a rhythmic, heavy sound. The Count asks if it's too hard to bear. Adrian is frozen. The flames roar. The bellows hiss. Dozens of blacksmiths are working, their hammers hitting the anvils in a chaotic symphony. Adrian is sweating, but his eyes are locked on one specific spot. Among the noise, there is one sound, a particularly clear, ringing sound. He walks toward it. The crowd parts. In the center of the heat, there's an old blacksmith. He's shirtless, tanned, and working with a focus that makes everyone else look like amateurs. Adrian's memories are triggered. This sound, this heat, it's the first thing he remembers from when he was first forged 1,000 years ago. He's sweating, his breath hitching. Adelia notices and wipes his face with a towel. Your Highness, you've been sweating a lot. He snapped out of his trance. He looks around, trying to regain his composure. The old smith is still hammering away, oblivious to the prince's arrival. The head of the guild, Saxon, comes forward to greet the prince. I see. Adrian isn't paying attention to him. Saxon notices the old man still working. He starts yelling at the smith to stop immediately and greet the prince. Adrian moves faster than anyone can react. He grabs Saxon's jaw and shuts him up. It's noisy! The other smiths are terrified. They think the prince is about to execute their guild leader. Adrian looks at the glowing metal on the anvil. It's obvious you were dragged in here while working, doing things you weren't even told to do. The metal is cooling. If you're thinking of extinguishing the forge's flame, keep doing that. He's actually defending the work. The smiths immediately scramble back to their posts. Adrian stands there, arms crossed. He's watching the old man. The old smith takes the metal out of the fire. The hammer falls. Clang. Adrian's heart is pounding. His eyes are reflecting the flames. He's seeing something that isn't there. The memories of his own creation. The forge is warping in his vision. What is this feeling? Our guy is having a soul-level resonance with a random blacksmith in an iron county. So while everyone else is playing Politics 101, this old master smith has been on a 6-month grind. He's been making and melting down perfect swords like he's trying to find a bug in the game's crafting system. The county lord calls him a master swordsmith, but honestly, the man looks more like a gym bro who wandered into a Bronze Age workshop. He's been working without sleep for a month. The swords he's melting are better than what most kings carry, which just proves that high-level crafters are actually insane. Adrian is just watching him. He isn't judging, he's respecting the process. A craftsman isn't just someone who makes things, he's someone who talks to the material. Several days pass. Our guy is basically a permanent fixture in the workshop now, arriving early and leaving late like he's clocking into a 9 to 5. The old man doesn't stop. The rhythm of the hammer is the only thing keeping the air moving. Adrian is silent. He knows that if he interrupts this flow, the masterpiece dies. The count is actually surprised that the trash prince hasn't set anything on fire yet. The rumors said he was a riot, but he's currently the most well-behaved person in the county. The nights are long, and the furnace never goes cold. Finally, the day of departure arrives. Adrian's time is up, and the sword still isn't done. He looks at the anvil one last time. The old smith is failing. You can see it in his eyes. The soul is leaving before the hammer finishes the job. I had hoped to see it completed. Adrian actually sounds disappointed. For a sword, seeing another blade born is like a family reunion. He turns to leave, the count following behind with a fake sympathetic look. But our guy has a deep regret. He knows what's about to happen. The count tells him it's enough. There's a farewell gathering tonight, and then they're gone at dawn. The count looks nervous. He's hiding something, and Adrian's is probably picking up the sweat. Suddenly, a shout echoes across the courtyard. Your Highness! Adrian stops mid-step. He's already turning before the messenger can even catch his breath. The master has completed the sword! The sun is setting, painting the sky in a color that matches the forge's fire. There he is. The old man is standing on the terrace, holding a blade that looks like it was plucked out of a constellation. He wipes the steel with a cloth, his movements slow and final. It's perfect. It doesn't have flashy runes or glowing gems, it just has the weight of a life lived. The master drops to his knees. He's presenting the blade with the last of his strength. Adrian sees himself in the reflection of the steel. This sword, I present it to your highness. The count is losing his mind in the background. This wasn't the plan. He wanted to keep the good sword and give the prince a shiny magic toy. The smith speaks of heat like the rising sun and cooling it to resemble a king's robes. A sword like the sun. A sword like the king. Does it have a name? Adrian's voice is almost a whisper. How about Demerung? Twilight. The smith explains that to him, it's the dusk of his life. But to Adrian, it's the dawn of a new era. Adrian actually laughs. You speak like an orator, not a craftsman. He's genuinely impressed by the old man's bars. The smith just smiles. He's done. He collapses forward. Adrian catches him. He tells Adelia and the others that he's staying the night. He isn't leaving this man to die alone in a hallway. The farewell party is cancelled. The night is quiet. Guards stand outside the tent, but inside, a different kind of conversation is happening. Adrian is sitting by the bed, the new sword leaning against the wall. The smith wakes up for one last moment. He says the sword took shape the moment Adrian stood behind him, like destiny was just waiting for a witness. Adrian asks if he really thinks the sword chose the day. Then, he leans in and whispers the truth. The smith's eyes go wide. My goodness! Then you! Adrian just nods. He's basically telling a dying man that he's actually the soul of a god-tier weapon. If anyone can appreciate that secret, it's a master swordsmith. The old man exhales. I see now. I finally understand. He can die happy knowing his masterpiece is being held by someone who speaks the same language. He asks to hold the sword one last time. Adrian hands it over. The smith's trembling fingers grip the hilt. May this sword become as great as you. He isn't talking to the prince, he's talking to the soul inside. He stops breathing. Adrian takes the sword back. It surely will. He looks at the blade. It's no longer just steel, it's a promise. Our guy sits in the dark for a long time. This is the first person in this new life who actually saw him, and he's already gone. The smith is at peace. Outside, the torches flicker. The world keeps moving, but Adrian is changed. The next morning, the count is back to being a politician. He presents a magic sword in a fancy box. He's trying to bribe Adrian into forgetting about Demerung. Adrian takes it. Excellent, a good sword of intermediate quality. He's mocking the Count to his face, but the Count is too dense to realize it. Adrian thanks him for the extra gift. He's basically walking away with two swords now, the legendary masterpiece and the bribe sword. The Count is beaming. The loyalty of the Eli family is extraordinary! Then he realizes what just happened. He lost two swords and gained nothing. The chibi wah in the corner is perfect. Time to move. Adrian orders the cavalry to push ahead. They're behind schedule, and he's got an appointment with an elite knight order. Uncle Bale pulls up. You seem busy. Adrian notes he didn't see Bale once during his stay at the Count's. Bale admits the king gave him a separate mission. Adrian realizes the king is still keeping tabs on the county's corruption. His side trip actually helped the crown. Bale tells him to prepare. They're going to push the horses to reach the destination by nightfall. About that, I don't know how to ride a horse. Bale's face is a masterpiece of I can't believe this is my life. Adrian's internal logic, I was a sword. How could I have ridden a horse? Honestly, valid point. The road to the Iron Lion Fortress is paved with rainbow vomit. Our guy is currently being defeated by a herbivore. He's hanging onto the horse for dear life while Arwen watches in horror. After many twists and turns, mostly Adrian falling off, they finally make it. He looks like he's been through a blender. Motion sickness is the one thing ancient magic can't fix. It took a full day instead of a half, but the Iron Lion Fortress is finally in sight. So this is the fortress. It's huge, intimidating, and full of people who probably hate him. The gates open. York of the Williden family greets them. He's got that I'm very important voice, but he's basically a mid-tier manager. Adrian notices the aura. That's more fighting spirit than necessary. The knights are basically barking at him with their eyes. He knows the reason. It's obvious. Arwen. The crowd parts. Arwen steps forward, looking like a total boss. She drops to one knee. She's been counting the days to see him. The reaction from the other knights is immediate. They're fuming. To them, Arwen is a goddess, and she's kneeling to a trash prince who can't even ride a horse. Adelia is standing behind Adrian, and her aura is turning purple. She's picking up on the hostility, and her butcher instincts are tingling. Adrian grabs her shoulder. Adelia! He's cooling her down before she starts a massacre. She snaps out of it, but the tension is still thick enough to cut. Adrian thinks it's a good thing he developed her. Otherwise, she'd be collecting heads by now. Well then, he tells Arwen to follow him. He's completely ignoring the angry knights like they're background NPCs. It'd be even better if those guys followed along too. He's baiting them. He wants a live audience for what's coming. He changes into his training gear. Wooden sword in hand, shirt unbuttoned, he's ready to conduct a performance review. I wish to appraise the swords of the Iron Lions. Translation, I'm here to show you why you're all trash. The knights are hesitating. They want to hit him, but they're scared of the political fallout. Adrian sees it. He swears on the name of Leonberger that he won't hold anyone responsible. He's basically giving them a legalize my ass whooping pass. Still no one? For the famed Iron Lions to be this timid? The title is just empty boasting. That does it. Dale of the Dennett family steps up. He's a first year, full of confidence and bad decisions. He tries to act polite, but his eyes say he wants to put the prince in the infirmary. I would dare to stand before your highness. Adrian just smiles. I was the one who asked first, Dale charges. Adrian doesn't even move his feet. Clack. One hit. Dale is eating dirt before he even finished his swing. Adrian doesn't even look down. Next. The crowd is silent. That wasn't a lucky shot, that was a skill gap. Paul Rothheim steps up. Third year. He thinks he's faster. He's wrong. Harley, Judith, it doesn't matter. They're flying through the air like Team Rocket. Adrian is standing in the middle of a field of groaning knights, looking bored. He's not even using mana, he's just using superior physics. He sighs. Seriously, they're awfully slow to move. He wants the full-fledged members now. The tutorial level is over. He looks at Arwen. When I return, you will come with me as well. He's officially reclaiming his first night. Arwen's smile is small but genuine. She's finally going home. As your highness commands. But then, a new aura enters the chat. A man in a hood sneers from the sidelines. Dunham steps forward. He's heard the prince enjoys wagers. He wants Arwen. He says if he wins, Arwen stays with the order. No, Arwen is not a prize in a tournament. Adrian shuts that down instantly. He treats his knights like people, not trophies. Cals, bring the sword. He pulls out the bribe sword he got from the county. If you win, I'll give you this sword. Arwen is shocked. She knows that sword is worth a fortune. Dunham is insulted. Compared to this paltry sword, you are 1,000 times more precious. He's trying to be a white knight. Adrian just looks at him like he's stupid. The value of a swordmaster cannot be compared to a mere blade. He's literally quoting Arwen's own worth back to her. Dunham gives in. He thinks this is an easy W. He introduces himself, Dunham of the Fahrenheit family. A full knight, almost a triple chain. Adrian's reaction, so in the end, it's just a double chain? He's basically calling him a mid-tier player. Dunham pulls out his own sword. It's the 17th blade made by the master of the sword. Adrian's eyes glint. How coincidental. He draws Demerung. The air changes. Dunham's sword is the 17th. Adrian is holding the 100th, the final masterpiece. Dunham has never even heard of a 100th sword. He thinks Adrian is lying. Dunham flares his mana. He thinks Adrian walks an incorrect path of the sword. He's about to give it his utmost. An incorrect path, you say? Adrian's smile goes cold. How shallow. He looks at his people. Adelia, Arwen, even Cal's. He doesn't need the respect of the world. The respect of his people is enough. Adelia, watch closely. He's not just fighting, he's teaching. This path is the path you must walk from now on. Adelia is glowing. She's absorbing everything. I will surely walk it, Your Highness. The duel hasn't even started, but the lesson has already finished. So, Uncle Bale is having a quiet tea time with Count Woolrodin, but the vibe is definitely not cozy. Woolrodin is counting the visits to the Iron Lion Castle. He notes that while the other princes were busy making appearances while Adrian was on probation, the second, third, and fifth princes were all here trying to secure the military's favor. Woolrodin sets his tea down, and you can see the frustration in his eyes. Regardless of the rumors, Adrian is still the first prince and the legitimate successor. He points a finger right at Bale, demanding to know why the commander of the Third Corps didn't do more to help the boy. He argues that if Bale had just stood behind him, Adrian wouldn't have been so isolated and hated. Bale doesn't argue back because, honestly, the man has a point. He remembers exactly why he stopped caring about his nephew. The old Adrian wasn't just incompetent, he was a walking disaster. He was a gluttonous, drunken tyrant in the making. Bale tried to discipline him once, back when Adrian was high on some vile potion, and instead of learning his lesson, the kid actually charged at his own uncle. With a sword in his hand and zero skill in his heart, he tried to cut down the one person who still cared. Looking into his eyes that day, Bale saw a scoundrel that was beyond redemption, so he left for the north. And what did Adrian do? He sent his uncle a gift, a bottle of poisoned wine. Bale grips the memory like he's gripping that bottle. He drank it right then and there, using his own mana to burn the poison out of his system, but while he was burning the poison, he also incinerated every last bit of love he had for his flesh and blood. And yet, the man standing in the training field today is a complete stranger. He endures training that would break most knights and grows stronger every second. Woolrodin interrupts his thoughts, reminding him of what he said before, that Adrian must never be allowed to take the throne. Bale stares at his reflection in the tea. The boy in that cup isn't the one he remembers. He tells Woolrodin to give him a chance. Just one opportunity to stand on the same starting line as his brothers. Then, the quad-chain commander of the Third Corps does the unthinkable. He bows. Woolrodin is genuinely stunned. He's never seen Bale this desperate or this humble. He can't tell if the change happened to Adrian or if Bale is the one who finally lost it. He tells him to raise his head because it's embarrassing for a silver lion to be bowing like a servant. Then, the doors burst open. A knight rushes in, panicking about Lord Woolrod's personal knight and the first prince. They head outside to the training grounds. Woolrodin tries to play it cool, saying Dunham is a professional who knows when to stop. He's sure Dunham wouldn't be so disrespectful as to actually ground pound a royal family member. Bale just gives him a look. He tells him that the one he should be worried about isn't the prince. Woolrodin thinks he's talking nonsense until they reach the field. Something heavy hits the dirt right in front of them. It's Dunham. The unbeatable prodigy is currently face down in the grass, completely unconscious. The entire field is screaming. Adrian has won again, and he's standing there with blue mana radiating off him like a final boss. Woolrodin is buffering. Bale just gives him a told you so look. Our guy wipes the blood from his mouth. He's exhausted, but he's not done. He looks at the line of knights waiting and just says, next. He remembers Bale's mantra that a knight's true journey begins at the second ring. He's breathing hard. His body is reaching its limit, but his soul is just getting warmed up. The current is capped out. He needs more. But he can't go full Dragon Slayer mode against these guys without killing them. Instead, he triggers his trait. The world goes silent. The next knight charges, shouting, but Adrian doesn't hear a word. He grips Demerong with both hands. His body starts moving on its own. It's that same sensation from his past life, the transcendence of the blade. The knight swings, and the impact shakes the entire courtyard. The knight is sent flying back like he just got hit by a truck. Adrian smirks. He's feeling the rhythm now. He stands over another fallen body and points his blade. Next. Steel meets steel, and the shock travels through the air. Adrian's eyes are cold. He's not even looking at the people anymore. He's looking at the lines of their techniques. Another clash. Another block. He spins, and a kick to the chest sends a knight airborne while his sword is parried into the dirt. The impact splits the ground. He's moving like a blur now, blue trails of mana following every strike. He looks like he's enjoying this way too much. Blood drips onto the sand. The sun is setting, and Adrian is the only one left standing in a field of defeated elites. He's panting, his shirt soaked in sweat, but his presence is suffocating. The knights in the crowd are losing it, Peyton is out cold too. That's 5 straight wins against the best the castle has to offer. Adrian feels the world record his actions. 1,000 waves weathered, standing unbowed. The system window pops up. A new verse is added to the poem. A blinding flash of blue light erupts from his heart. The hit's uncommon grade. The system starts rewriting the rules of his combat. It evolves. The is gone, replaced by the. He actually did it. He forced the record of this world to acknowledge his ancient soul. But as soon as the adrenaline dips, his body reminds him he's still human. He stumbles. A knight catches him before he hits the dirt, asking if he's okay. It's the same guys who were insulting him this morning. Now, they're looking at him with genuine respect. They start cheering. Honor to the sword of the first prince! Adrian is actually confused. 10 minutes ago, they looked ready to tear his limbs off. Bale and Wolroden watch from the balcony. Wolroden notes that soldiers are simple creatures. Nothing gets them going like a sharp blade in a decisive victory. Wolroden claps. He admits that a fair defeat is worth more than a disgraceful victory. The other knights start joking around, saying Dunham is going to be salty for a month. They're laughing because Dunham was way too smug about his sword skills anyway. Adrian smiles. He thought everything from his past life was discarded when he lost his mana heart, but it seems the ethos of a knight, the respect for strength, is the one thing that never changes. Next morning, the carriage is packed. It's time to head back to the Den of Vipers. The capital. Adrian gives them a wave, telling them he'll see them next time. Wolroden bows deep, praying for the prince's health. He's a total convert now. Just as he's about to leave, Adrian stops. Ah, that's right, Count Wolroden. He asks the count to keep everything that happened here a secret. Wolroden is confused. Wouldn't telling the king help Adrian's status? Adrian just gives him this devious, low-taper fade of a smirk. He explains that there's someone he wants to play a little prank on. Translation, he wants to bait his brothers into a trap. Cut to the journey back. They set up camp for the night. Bale tells Adrian he's going to scout the surroundings. Adrian nods, not really paying attention. He turns to see Arwen just staring at him. She's still in stoic bodyguard mode, but you can tell she's processing his power. He figures she'll adapt eventually. Being the guard for a monster is a steep learning curve. He heads to his tent to rest and finds Adelia waiting. She's literally glowing with best-made energy. Adrian sighs internally. This girl has S-grade combat potential, and she spent the last hour perfecting a pillow fluff. Adelia sees his face and panics, asking if the tent isn't to his liking. He tells her it's fine and to just go get some sleep. He lays back, thinking about the Iron Lion Knights. They weren't what he expected. Most of them were mid-tier at best, C-grade or B-grade talent. In the past, these people would have spent their whole lives training just to reach the bottom of the sword expert rank, but because of the mana chain system, they're reaching that level in their 20s. The ceiling for superhumans has dropped, but the floor for ordinary people has risen. That's the power of the mana chain. It's mass-produced strength. He thinks of Bale, a man who could have reached transcendence if he used the old methods, but chose the stable path instead. In this era, building achievements beyond common grade is nearly impossible because nobody takes risks anymore. He clenches his fist. It's just the flow of time, but he doesn't have to like it. He admits he doesn't know this era well enough yet. He needs to start from the beginning. Then, clapping. From the corner of the tent, it's Bale. He's standing there with a proud dad look, telling Adrian that's a good mindset. Adrian is like, "What are you doing in here?" Bale ignores him and talks about how Adrian won over the Iron Lions. He calls it a wise decision and smiles. Adrian gets a chill down his spine. The vibe is wrong. This isn't the "I hate you, uncle" anymore. He asks if Bale is out of his mind. Did you forget the bet we made? The bet was about defeating the third prince to prove he's not trash. But technically, the bet was to defeat a double chain knight. Since Dunham was double chain, Adrian already won. Bale takes a step forward, his face dead serious. Adrian realizes something very bad is about to happen to his quiet life. Bale introduces himself formally. Bale Ballhard, Count of the Kingdom and Commander of the Third Corps. He officially declares his support for the first prince, Adrian Leonberger. Adrian's face drops. This is a political nuclear bomb. Bale gives him a thumbs up in his mind. Adrian is screaming internally. He never said he wanted to be king. The news hits the palace like a meteor. Suddenly, everyone is congratulating him. Servants, knights, and nobles are all bowing. They think the trash prince just pulled off the greatest comeback in history. New court knights are assigned. Dozens of new servants are scurrying around his quarters. Adrian looks like he wants to explode. The attention is a nightmare for a guy trying to move in the shadows. He starts yelling, telling them to send everyone back. It's too distracting, but they're here by royal order. He tells them to at least stay out of his sight before he loses it. He retreats into his private study and shuts the curtains. He finally gets a second of peace. It's finally a bit quiet now, and then the door is kicked open. "Brother, are you Uther?" It's Gillian, the third prince. He looks like he hasn't slept in 3 days. Adrian asks why he's here again. Gillian is shaking with rage. He accuses Adrian of playing a sly game, secretly learning from Bale while pretending to be trash. Adrian just sighs. I'm so grateful I could cry. He's mocking him, and Gillian knows it. Gillian points a finger, swearing that Adrian made a big mistake by deceiving him. Adrian grips his head. He's told everyone he has zero interest in the throne, but nobody is listening. He needs to find the culprit who started this rumor. Cut back to the camp. Adrian is confronting Bale. He tells his uncle he'll play along for a bit, but Bale needs to back off. He doesn't want the throne. Bale smirks. He asks if Adrian is worried about Balhard. He shows him a vision of the north. Monsters, orcs, and demons. Balhard is the shield of the kingdom. As long as people fear winter, his house is safe. Adrian relaxes slightly. He thought Bale was trying to use him to secure the family's future. Bale looks at him with genuine concern. He asks if Adrian knows what happens to the eldest son who fails to take the throne. In royal families, there is no retirement. The legitimacy of the eldest son doesn't disappear unless he dies. Bale is trying to save his life, whether Adrian wants it or not. Adrian sits on his bed looking at Demerung. He doesn't want a measly right to the throne. He wants his transcendent power back. He certainly had such thoughts until the banquet began. The doors to the grand hall swing open. The announcer shouts his name. Adrian enters, looking like a different person. The crowd is whispering. The king and the other princes are watching him like hawks. And in the corner, a mysterious girl in a purple hood watches him with a very interesting smile. The trash prince is gone. The real player has entered the game. Micro mystery. The footsteps echo through the hall. Adrian makes his entrance, looking like a man who finally realized the trash prince life has a much higher tax rate than he expected. The noble ladies are already buzzing, comparing his new, lean physique to his father in his prime. Adrian isn't flattered. He knows he just lost a bit of trash weight. He scans the room, and what he finds isn't great. Almost everyone has the trait. In Adrian's world, that's the mark of corruption, a sign that you've stepped on too many people to get where you are. He sees the karma literally coiling around them like purple serpents. It's a room full of parasites. He decides there's nobody even worth talking to until he spots a familiar face in the crowd. He walks right up to Taylor, a minor noble who looks like he just wants to hide in the buffet line. Taylor remembers the old Adrian, the one who was basically a human wrecking ball. He's terrified. But Adrian likes him. Taylor isn't a genius, but he isn't corrupted either. He's the perfect vessel for the seeds Adrian is about to plant. Suddenly, the herald screams for attention. The doors on the balcony swing open to announce a distinguished guest, Marquise Klein de Bourgogne-Montpellier, the ambassador of the Bourgogne Empire. Adrian's face goes stone cold. Every noble in the room bows. It's pathetic. They're showing more respect to a foreign ambassador than they show to their own royal family. Klein waddles down the stairs, looking like he owns the place. He greets Adrian with a fake smile that says he thinks the prince is a joke. Adrian is currently struggling not to draw his sword and end this guy's entire career. Bourgogne. That's the name of the enemy Adrian and his greatest friend fought for centuries. They left scars on this land 400 years ago that still haven't healed. Adrian is actually shaking with rage. Before he can do something that starts a world war, someone bumps into him and spills wine all over his chest. He stands there, dripping red, looking like a man who is 1 second away from a kill streak. The old man who bumped into him starts apologizing profusely, saying he just wanted to greet the prince as soon as possible. He's frantic, but his eyes are way too calm for someone who just ruined a royal outfit. Adrian realizes this was a tactical spill. The old man felt the murderous aura coming off him and stepped in to cool him down. Ambassador Klein just watches, unimpressed. The room goes quiet as Adrian stares at the puddle of wine on the marble floor. He says he'll go change, excusing himself before he does something disrespectful with a sharp object. Arwen follows him, asking who the old man was. It was Marquise Bielefeld, one of the few people in this room who actually gives a damn about the kingdom. Adrian wipes his face. He realizes that thanks to the Marquis, his head has finally cooled down. He's alone in his study, looking at the rain outside. Bale walks in, noticing the dark mood. The Marquise told Bale that Adrian looked like he was about to punch someone into the next life. Bale sits down, not even bothering to pretend everything is okay. Adrian looks at his uncle with eyes that see way more than a simple banquet. He asks Bale what he was going to do about the ambassador. Bale admits he understands the rage. The Bourgogne family flaunts their power in the heart of the kingdom, and the nobles show them more courtesy than they show their own king. It's not an alliance, it's a slow-motion surrender. Adrian is genuinely disgusted. How did the country become such a mess? Bale sighs. The history behind it is the usual story of a small country getting bullied by a big one. The kingdom used to stand firm, repelling invasions with legendary knights. But as the empire grew, the gap became too wide to close with just bravery. The kingdom was forced to kneel to the empire's sheer economic and military weight. Adrian realizes the truth. The kingdom has lost its soul because it lost its chansons. The source of power that allowed a tiny country to stand against an empire was its legends. The ordinary and extraordinary deeds that turned into myths, and myths that became power. The chansons. The epics of the founding heroes. He grips his chest. He feels like he's lost everything he worked for 400 years ago. He looks up at his uncle and says, "Uncle, I've changed my mind." Bale is confused. "I will try to become king." Bale stares at him, realizing the kid just stopped being a kid. Adrian knows he might regret it, but he can't let the house he built fall apart, because he built half of this country, and he's not about to let a bunch of snakes sell the furniture. Second day of the banquet. Adrian enters again, but the aura is different. Even the herald's voice sounds heavier. He looks at the nobles. They start to bow, and this time it's not because of his title, it's because he looks like a predator. He thinks about how terrible it is to be a noble from a foreign country right now. His mind drifts back to his old friend. Back then, when his friend stood in front of people, nobody thought he would be king. He was just a country boy running from his problems, unremarkable even among commoners. He steps forward, but he still stood tall just like Adrian is doing now. He decides to show them what a real legend looks like. They have eyes, but they cannot see the weight he's carrying. He starts singing the system screams a warning. He isn't strong enough to sustain the grade of this song. Portions of the song are omitted. He can only manage half a verse. The strain is immense, but compared to the epic, this is manageable. This isn't a myth, it's a hero. His eyes glow with a piercing blue light. A spectral blue crown forms above his head. For this specific situation, there's no better song. He walks through the crowd, blue energy trailing behind him like a royal cape. The nobles are frozen. They finally stop looking at the Burgone ambassador. "They're finally looking at me." He gives a dark smirk. He's about to make an announcement when he feels a sudden surge of dark purple energy. A hooded figure is standing right in his path, energy radiating off her like a black hole. She pulls back her hood, revealing pointed ears. An elf. Adrian's heart stops. She remembers that song. It's her, Sigrun. What is that mad woman doing here? The batch ends on Adrian's pure realization that a 1,000-year-old lunatic just found her favorite toy. In the stories, elves are the most beautiful creations of God, benevolent gardeners of the forest who wouldn't hurt a fly. That's the elf people imagine. In reality, they are cruel predators who use beauty as bait. High elves are born with the rank of. They are biological weapons. And this one? She isn't just a high elf. Sigrun, the dancing blade dancer. She's lived for 1,000 years. She was a member of the expedition that killed the Mad Dragon 400 years ago. She was also the lunatic who spent centuries tormenting Adrian back when he was a sword. She literally used to hug his blade and tell him she wanted to own him. He's sweating. There's no way she recognized him in a human body, right? Sigrun tilts her head, asking if they've met. She says he feels familiar. Adrian plays it cool. "This is the first time I've seen an elf." He says it with a straight face. She stares at him for a long, uncomfortable moment. Liar. Adrian is panicking internally. Sigrun was one of the strongest beings on the planet 400 years ago. He has no idea what kind of monster she's become now. He notes the two reactions humans have when they see an elf. Ordinary people are enchanted, but those who actually have power, they're wary. They see the predator behind the face. She reaches out a single slender finger. She touches his chest and tells him that he doesn't seem to have reached that level yet. She's mocking his current weakness. Adrian just smiles. "I just have unusual aesthetic preferences." He's basically calling her ugly to her face to throw her off. She goes quiet. Then she says it was a pleasure meeting him and walks away. He breathes a sigh of relief. He got through one round at least. Cut to the choosing a consort gathering. Queen Margarita is looking at candidates. First one is a baby. Too young. The next one won't even make eye contact. The one after that looks like she came here to start a boxing match. Really too young. Not interested. It's a disaster. The candidates are either toddlers, terrified, or bears. Literally a teddy bear. Margarita is facepalming. Adrian is just standing there enduring the motherly lecture. She's listing all the qualities a proper consort should have. Wise, healthy, strong family. Adrian is just tuning it out. Then a guard announces that the elven delegation is requesting an audience. The hooded figure enters the throne room. Sigrun removes her hood and greets the queen with a perfect noble bow. Margarita is surprised. Elves haven't visited the kingdom in centuries. Sigrun notes that the queen is searching for a consort for the prince. She announces that she is a high elf. In human terms, she's basically from a family that makes the royal line look like peasants. Adrian has a very bad feeling about where this is going. She smiles brightly and says she isn't that far from his highness in age. Adrian is screaming in his head. That's a 1,000-year lie. She's basically his great-great-great-great-grandmother. She says that from the moment she saw him, she felt their destiny was intertwined. And elves never lie about destiny. The room goes silent. Even Adrian is wondering for a second if she's being sincere. The queen is actually impressed. "Truly bold!" the nobles start whispering. A marriage alliance with the elves? That would solve half the kingdom's problems in a day. Adrian has heard enough. He's not being sold to a lunatic today. He grabs Sigrun's hand. "Let's talk for a moment." He drags her out of the room. The nobles are scandalized. You don't just drag a high elf out of a meeting like a disobedient puppy. He slams the door of a private room. Sigrun. He demands to know her real purpose. She giggles, saying she just wants to foster friendship. His eyes go dark. I'll ask again, Elder High Elf Sigrun, the executor who has shouldered the clan's killing karma for hundreds of years, Blade of the Mistletoe clan. Is your purpose reconnaissance or execution? Sigrun stops laughing. Her eyes glow with a dangerous purple light. Interesting. How did you know about me? Adrian doesn't blink. He knows she's a monster beyond what he can measure. The fact that she felt destiny means she glimpsed the past carved into his soul. She asks if he knows how foolish it is to stay silent before an executor. Adrian gives a cold smile. I know very well that it's just as foolish as running your mouth in front of an executor. Stop the game, Sigrun. Don't interfere with my destiny. She's currently feeling mild curiosity. That's the most dangerous thing an elf can feel toward a human. If he stays insignificant, she'll eventually get bored and tear him to shreds. So he decides to draw even greater interest. He'll become a delicacy worth aging. She asks who he really is. He just says, who knows? If you're curious, stick around and watch. Sigrun is genuinely stunned. Nobody has ever spoken to her like this in a millennium. She realizes why they sent her on such a trivial mission. It was because of him. She looks absolutely delighted, and not in a good way. Adrian is sweating. She's as creepy as ever. He walks back into the grand hall with her. They're holding hands. The nobles are losing their minds. They stand before the queen. Adrian clears his throat. I have something to say. I will become engaged to Sigrun. Sigrun looks like she just won the lottery. Adrian is only doing this to buy time. He knows he can't go against her interest right now, but an engagement buys him months, maybe years. He tells the queen it's a big decision, so he'll observe for a while before the official wedding. The queen nods, already calculating the political value of this alliance. For Sigrun, this is just letting the meal ripen. For Adrian, it's time to build the strength to escape from this lunatic elf before she decides to take a bite. Damn it, Prince Gillian is currently having a total meltdown in his office. He's smashing furniture and screaming about how a trash brother could possibly be better than him. He's fuming, his face red with a mix of shame and pure hatred. He's replaying everything that just happened, Bale declaring support for Adrian, the Iron Lions being won over, and now he even took a high elf for himself. Gillian thought elven beauty was a myth, but seeing Sigrun's presence shattered his confidence completely. But then he remembers the duel he scheduled. He gives a dark, twitchy smile. He decides he won't kill Adrian because that would be a political headache, but he'll cut him up enough so he can never function as a man again. I'll crush him miserably. Gillian is officially in his villain era, and it's honestly just sad to watch. Flashback to the training grounds. The commander of the Royal Knights, Schirmhilde Stuttgart, stands as the notary. He makes it clear, this duel is official, notarized, and nobody can object to the result. Adrian is literally yawning. He's thinking that these people use way too many words for a simple sword match. Gillian draws his blade, looking all smug because he brought a crowd of nobles to watch him win. Adrian just sighs. He's been feeling this for a while. The gap between him and these prodigies is just too wide to be funny. Gillian tells him he talks too much and that he won't be able to run his mouth once the duel is over. He charges. It's a fast move, fueled by double chain mana. Adrian doesn't even move his feet. He notes that he was going to play around a bit to make it look fair, but he's gotten kind of busy lately. He swings once. Impact. Gillian is sent crashing into the dirt, coughing up blood and gasping for air. The nobles in the crowd look like their souls just left their bodies. The commander is buffering. He can't reconcile the prince he knew with the monster standing in front of him. Adrian stands over his brother, looking down with eyes that aren't even angry, just bored. Gillian is out cold. The spectacle ended before the nobles could even sit down. The commander recovers his voice and judges that the third prince cannot continue. The victor is the first prince. The ladies in the background look like they just witnessed a glitch in the Matrix. Adrian doesn't stick around for the applause. He walks away, thinking about how these nobles all swarmed here to watch what he considers a children's fight. The crowd is in total shock. They can't believe a promising double-chain knight lost to a guy who's only been training for a few months. Gillian wakes up in his room, bandages on his face, and a look of pure murder in his eyes. This damn bastard delinquent! He's screaming at the top of his lungs. He orders his servants to prepare everything. He's going to find Adrian and settle this for real. A knight stutters, trying to get a word in. He informs Gillian that Adrian left the capital with Count Ballhard immediately after the duel ended. Cut to the north. A royal carriage is moving through a heavy snowstorm. Adrian is on horseback now. Bale notes that he's finally learned to ride properly, and Adrian just shrugs it off. Bale tells him to learn some humility, but then asks why they're in such a rush. Adrian looks at the frozen landscape. He says he has no place in the capital anymore. He refuses to grovel before empire dogs and people who can't recognize their own country's master. Bale warns him that winning over soldiers and knights is harder than winning over nobles. Soldiers are conservative and won't trust a trash prince easily. Adrian just smirks. If we roll in the mud together, affection will naturally grow. He's planning to level up his reputation the hard way. Bale thinks he's rushing, and honestly, he is. Because if he dawdles, he might actually end up married to that lunatic elf. Buying time is one thing, but he needs to be strong enough to say no when she comes to collect. He knows catching Sigrun's interest is a death sentence if you stay weak. He needs a place to sharpen his blade, a place where humans face the most trials, the place where the most war epics were born in history, the battlefield. They reach the Blade Mountain range. Bale explains it's the border his family has defended for generations. Adrian is shivering. He's a legendary sword soul, but his body is still a human that hasn't seen a winter in years. Bale tells him to get in the carriage if he can't handle it, but Adrian refuses. He needs to get used to this. Meanwhile, Marquise Bielefeld is chilling in the carriage, waving at them. Adrian is annoyed that the old man decided to follow them just to experience the North. The Marquise says the book he's writing will help Adrian later. Adrian just calls him an annoying old man under his breath. He looks over at his knights. Arwen is riding through the snow, looking stoic as always, but her face is slightly flushed from the cold. Adrian asks if she's okay and tells her she can switch seats if it's too hard. She snaps back into knight mode, saying a knight should never seek personal comfort. Adrian smiles. At least one person in his group has overflowing enthusiasm, but then he looks at the rest of his escort. The royal knights sent with him are full of complaints. They feel like they're being punished by being sent to the frozen north. Adrian misses his knight Carls. Carls would have whipped these guys into shape already. The king refused to let Carls go, questioning if Adrian even knew how to make people into real knights. Adrian realizes the king's attitude is beyond just disappointed father. There's something going on that he doesn't know about yet. Bale interrupts his thoughts. The wind is picking up. The snowflakes instantly become a full-blown blizzard. It's a harsh, forced march. You can't even hear the person riding next to you. Bale looks worried. The North doesn't care about your royal blood. He orders the men to ditch the carriage and move on foot. They need to keep the horses alive. He uses a mana shout to cut through the wind. Adrian hears Adelia cry out and rushes to the carriage. She's struggling with the door. He reaches out a hand. She's genuinely touched that the prince came for her personally. He checks if Arwen and Adelia are okay. They're holding up, but the royal knights are a mess. The guards are colliding with each other, blinded by the snow. Adrian orders Arwen to look after Adelia, then he turns on the guards. "Yo, you idiots, drop HA shields!" He screams at them to dump anything cumbersome. The wind is using their huge shields like sails to blow them away. He puts the biggest guy in front and orders a single-file column. Bale watches, realizing Adrian actually has combat experience. Each step feels like they're dragging lead. The group is reaching their limit. Suddenly, a soldier collapses into the snow. "Your Highness! We've lost a soldier!" Adrian pushes through the line. The man is unconscious, his skin turning blue. Without a second thought, Adrian hoists the fully armored soldier onto his shoulders. He tells the rest of them to stop standing around and march quickly if they want to live. They see their prince carrying a grown man through a blizzard and their complaints die in their throats. As the hellish march comes to an end, Adrian's boots finally hit solid stone. The blizzard is still howling, but the sky clears like a lie as they reach the gates. Adrian sets the soldier down. Bale walks toward the gate, looking like he's finally back where he belongs. The flags of Balhard are snapping in the wind. He officially welcomes the first prince as the rightful ruler of this land. Adrian looks at the fortress, his eyes glowing. Welcome to Winter Castle. This is where the real game begins. Winter Castle, the fortress at the northernmost edge of the world. Ordinary soldiers call it the worst post you can draw. It's freezing, brutal, and monsters spill out of the mountains like a leaky faucet. Nobles in the capital debate its political weight over tea, but they wouldn't last 10 minutes here. The gates groan open. For those born in Balhard, this castle is a duty and a pride. A man is waiting for them in the courtyard. He looks exactly like a younger, grumpier Bale. "Vincent Balhard!" He reports that his service as acting commander is over. Bale tells him he's done well. Adrian is surprised. "What's this, uncle? You have a son?" Bale jokes that he didn't reach this age without a single child. Adrian notes that they have the same stubborn mouth. Bale introduces Vincent to Adrian. Vincent bows, but you can feel the frost coming off him. He's the Balhard Ranger Company commander. Adrian gives him a friendly smile, but internally, Vincent is seething. He thinks Winter Castle is for true warriors with noble convictions. He views Adrian as a scoundrel who was chased from the capital and is just here to idle away time with his women, meaning Arwen and Adelia. He ignores Adrian and orders a guide to take the prince to his room. As soon as Adrian is out of earshot, Vincent turns on his father. Bale simply says he's decided to become Adrian's patron. Vincent is outraged. He reminds Bale that Adrian was cast aside by the king for being talentless. Bale just gives him a look. People change. He tells Vincent to watch Adrian without prejudice. Vincent is still grinding his teeth, but he can't argue with his father. He vows to watch, but you know he's just looking for a reason to say, "I told you so." Later, a strategy meeting. They're looking at a map of the monster tribes. Vincent reports that they've reduced the monster numbers, but the mountain entrance is still dangerous. Adrian is sitting at the table, casually eating while the commanders talk. The problem is, a group of 20 orcs settled near the entrance. These aren't normal orcs. They're bigger, stronger, and hard for rangers to handle with just arrows. Vincent says they need to select elite knights from the castle to clear them out. Adrian suddenly points at the map. Here, I will handle it. He says it like he's volunteering to take out the trash. The commanders are shocked. They warn him that these orcs are different. If he messes up, the ranger's entire supply route is compromised. Adrian just looks at Bale. Uncle? Bale asks Vincent for the confirmed numbers and strength. 20 confirmed. No warriors or shamans yet, but they can't rule it out. Bale asks Adrian if he's confident. Vincent is yelling now. He's worried about the ranger's reputation and the prince's safety. Adrian just thinks it's funny how sharp Vincent is. He's a mini Bale through and through. Bale tells Vincent to shut up and asks Adrian what he needs. Adrian asks for 3 guides and better equipment for his men. He wants crossbows. Bale nods. Done. Vincent looks like he's about to have an aneurysm. Adrian goes back to his royal knights. We're moving out. Hans Deck, the mustache guy, is confused. He didn't sign up for orc hunting. He argues that their mission is to escort the prince, not fight monsters. Adrian gives him a generous smile. That works perfectly. You'll have to follow me to protect me anyway. He tells them to get their gear and report back. He knows these guys are unreliable, but they are the hands he's been dealt. He'll make them useful or break them trying. He scans Hans. Not great, not terrible. He scans Joseph. A spy? Interesting. Then the guides arrive. Vincent is leading them personally. Vincent warns Adrian that the consequences of failure are greater than he thinks. The air between them is literally sparking with tension. Adrian uses his third eye on Vincent. This means Vincent is at least a triple chain knight. He scans the rangers behind Vincent. Only one is a real ranger. The rest are knights posing as scouts. Adrian realizes Bale sent babysitters. He smirks. He can overlook it for now. They head out into the forest. Adrian tells Adelia to stay behind. It's too dangerous for her current level. They start the climb. Adrian orders everyone to conserve stamina. Vincent starts lecturing him about footing in the snow. Adrian thinks his lecturing is worse than the king's. Suddenly, a rabbit darts across the path. The lead ranger stops and pulls out a telescope. Through the lens, they see the orcs. They're massive, with glowing red eyes and blood on their tusks. They're currently eating a kill. The ranger reports the location. Vincent asks Adrian what the plan is. Adrian raises a hand. No words. Load. The orcs hear something. One of them looks up. They see a single blonde human standing on the ridge above them. Adrian gives them a terrifying grin. Hello, it's been a while. Fire. A volley of crossbow bolts rips through the air. The orcs are pinned down. Adrian jumps. He draws Demerong as he hits the ground. An orc charges him, swinging a massive cleaver. Adrian dodges with an inch to spare. The cleaver shatters the earth. His eyes are glowing blue, his mind in that familiar combat rhythm. He cuts through the orc's neck like it's butter. Blood sprays everywhere, soaking the snow. Adrian is smiling. Genuinely smiling. This is nice. The air of the battlefield, the stench of blood. This is what he missed for 400 years. Arwen is frozen. She's never seen this side of him. Adrian tells her not to come closer. He doesn't want her getting in the way of his fun. He warns her, step wrong, and you'll be dragged into it. A vision of the past hits him. 400 years ago, back when orcs ruled the continent and a pitiful man whose name was forgotten to history fought them alone. A man whose hatred for orcs burned brighter than the sun. Adrian starts singing. Not a heroic song this time. A song of stacks of corpses and crimson lakes. The system window shatters into red. He's singing and the orcs are about to find out why the world forgot their name. Flashback to the capital. A heavy bag of gold hits the table with a thud. This is Lord Count Palatine. He's the type of guy who probably has a Villain of the Week subscription. He's laughing about our guy, calling him a delinquent prince, who won't do anything in the north except hide in the castle and steal his uncle's credit. He tells his spy, Joseph, that Adrian doesn't matter. What matters is keeping an eye on the Ballhard family. Joseph grabs the gold, his hand shaking. He gives a greasy smirk, thinking he's landed the easiest job in history. Just watch a loser prince and get rich? Say less. Palatine tells him to do his best. Spoiler alert, Joseph is about to have the worst week of his life. Fast forward to right now. Joseph is in the middle of a blizzard, surrounded by monsters, and he is absolutely losing it. The orcs are massive, and Joseph realizes this is nothing like the easy mission he was promised. Arwen is trying to hold the line, screaming for the first row to advance. Joseph is in that row, and he looks like he's about to cry. An orc cleaver hits a shield, and the impact sends a shockwave through the entire formation. Joseph is paralyzed. He's wondering how his life went from bag of gold to orc dinner so fast. He tries to order an attack, but he's just screaming into the wind. He looks up and sees it. A massive orc warrior is looming over him. Joseph realizes that nothing his men are doing is even scratching this thing. He drops his weapon. He thinks it's over. He's closing his eyes, waiting for the end. but the blow never lands. A blur of black and silver armor streaks past him. Arwen intercepts the strike, her blade sparking against the orc's steel. The force of the block shatters the ground beneath her feet. She's holding it, but you can tell the weight is nearly breaking her. She doesn't even look at Joseph as she tells him this is a battlefield and to never drop his weapon like a coward. Joseph just stutters a yes sir, looking like he just saw a ghost. The orc warrior is just the tip of the iceberg. More of them are emerging from the tree line. Arwen orders all forces to get battle ready, but internally she's worried. There are too many of them. At this rate, their current numbers are just going to get overwhelmed by brute force. Then, a shift in the air. A red blood-colored aura starts drifting past her face. Suddenly, the lead orc's head is just gone. The soldiers are frozen. They didn't even see who moved. Arwen turns her head, and her eyes go wide. It's Idrian. He's standing on top of a dead orc, looking like a man possessed. The red energy coming off him is so thick it's staining the snow. He's panting, his eyes hidden in shadow, but the killing intent is physically crushing. Arwen whispers his name. She's terrified, and she's on his side. Idrian looks up, and one of his eyes is glowing a predatory red. "Your Highness!" Arwen shouts, but he's already gone. He moves with a speed that defies human limits. He's not just fighting, he's a hurricane of steel and blood. He thinks to himself that it wasn't enough. No matter how many he killed in his past life, the hunger for vengeance never stopped. The narrator needs you to understand something about this isn't just a buff, it's a memory of pure trauma. He remembers wandering the orc-ruled wastelands, looking for anything that bled green. He remembers jumping into the middle of hordes without a plan. He remembers the sound of bone breaking and the smell of copper. Back then, the mana in his heart had run dry years ago. His body was literally falling apart, but he refused to stop walking. He survived by drinking orc blood and eating their flesh when he ran out of supplies. With every single step, his hair turned whiter and his skin turned more frail. The only thing keeping him standing was the demonic sword in his hand. He was burning his very soul just to fulfill one final wish. He remembers walking into a ruined house. His house. The silence in that room was louder than any battle. He looks at a blood-stained frame. This man didn't start as a warrior, he was a father whose wife and daughter were slaughtered so thoroughly there wasn't even a scrap of flesh left to bury. His eyes are the definition of nothing left to lose. And at last, when he finally faced the Orc Lord, the enemy of his entire life, he was already a walking corpse. He gave a small, sad smile as his strength finally failed. But in this life, Idrian is the one wielding that man's ghost. He slams into the orc warrior, the impact throwing up a wall of snow. Steel meets muscle, and the orc's armor shatters like glass. Idrian is a blur of black shadows and red light. He carves through the orc's chest. The monster's head hits the ground with a dull thud. Blood sprays across Idrian's face, but he doesn't blink. In the past, there was no miracle for that father. He died in the ruins. Yet he never gave up, even when his heart stopped beating. Idrian stares at the falling snow. The orc warrior is dead. The silence returns. This was a story that was never passed on. A hero that history forgot. The sword remembers. Idrian remembers. He's the only one left who knows the price that was paid. He stands alone in a graveyard of green corpses. The knights are staring at him like he's a deity they don't quite understand. He grips Demerung, the blade humming in his hand. He realizes something. The song is finally making sense. There was always an unfinished song because the man died before he could find peace. I have to complete this song. He moves again, finishing off the stragglers with cold, surgical precision. It's a one-sided slaughter. The last orc tries to block, but Idrian's sword passes through his weapon like it's made of air. The red energy flares one last time. A new verse is added. The system logic is changing. The mountain of corpses is high enough. The red lake has spread far enough. He stands before the final kill. He plunges his sword into the ground and whispers, "I honor your soul." The window pops up. That has evolved into the hate is gone, only the power remains. Idrian's eyes return to their normal blue. He looks over at Vincent, who is standing nearby, covered in blood and looking shell-shocked. Vincent reaches down and snaps the orc's banner. He raises it high and shouts that the orcs have been wiped out. The victory is theirs. The soldiers cheer, but they're all looking at Idrian. Idrian stares at him. That man's name from 400 years ago, it was Vincent Ballhard. The current heir of the family shares the name and the face of the Avenger of old, the man who threw away everything to wish for the orc's annihilation. Idrian thinks to himself that the coincidence is almost eerie. Maybe destiny really is just a circle. The orc banner snaps in the wind. Vincent is standing there with a face like he just swallowed a lemon. He's trying to be cool, but the vibe is awkward. Idrian looks at the tattered red cloth. "What's this?" Vincent shoves it toward him. "Please accept it." He explains the tradition of the 3rd Legion. The soldier who fought most bravely takes the banner. He calls it a priceless trophy of honorable victory. You can tell it's killing him to say this to the guy he called a scoundrel yesterday. He coughs, his face turning a little red. "The owner of that banner is you, Your Highness." Adrian is actually stunned. He wasn't expecting an L to turn into a W this quickly. Arwen steps up, her hand on her heart. She offers her genuine respect for his bravery. The rest of the Rangers drop to one knee. Honor to the prince for his valor! Adrian starts to smile, a real mischievous smile. He looks at Vincent and says, say it louder, so everyone here can hear you. He's literally milking the moment. Vincent looks like he wants to punch him, but he's bound by honor. Adrian raises the banner high. Won! The Rangers erupt. They're officially Adrian believers now. They welcome him to Winter Castle for real this time. Adrian is soaking it in. Victory, cheers, glory. He's yelling like a kid, I'm the one who owns this banner! He has the mental age of a 1,000-year-old, but right now he's acting like a 5-year-old with a new toy. Vincent watches him and mumbles, 16. I have 16 orc banners too. Oh, here we go. The my dad is stronger than your dad energy is real. Adrian's face immediately drops. The Rangers are thinking, wow, Commander, you're really being that childish? Adrian gives him a death stare. So hat, this banner is mine. He raises it even higher. Vincent just grumbles that he really doesn't like this guy. They start a massive bonfire. They're burning the orc corpses, the standard northern procedure to prevent disease and ghosts. The atmosphere gets somber. Rangers are mourning their fallen comrades. Adrian and Arwen stand by the flames. Vincent approaches them. He notes that for an elite orc unit, their own damage wasn't that high. Arwen looks at the fire. Still, it's a real shame. Vincent says something that hits Adrian hard. For our fallen, victory is enough. In Balhard, we soothe their spirits with orc blood. Adrian looks at him. Same name, same philosophy, same stubbornness. He wonders if Vincent is actually the reincarnation of his old friend. Anyway, the mood shifts back to business. Adrian notices a group of Rangers who look a bit too stiff to be scouts. He asks if the 3rd Legion always sends this many people. Vincent says a unit just happened to be nearby. Adrian sees right through it. Bale didn't trust him and had a secret backup ready just in case. He's not even mad, it was a smart move. But something else is bothering him. Why did an elite orc unit launch a raid this far south? And how did none of the scouts detect them until they were on top of them? Vincent agrees. Something is shifting in the mountains. They need to hurry back. They return to the castle. Bale is waiting at the gate looking like a proud tiger. Welcome back, all of you. Adrian looks exhausted but happy, and then he starts bragging again. I'm the who owns this banner! The soldiers at the gate are cheering. They can't believe he got a banner on his first sortie. Arwen and the other knights are literally facepalming. That's like the 11th time he's said it. Adrian doesn't care. He's living his best life. But Vincent pulls Bale aside. He reports that the orcs showed up too early. They found big prey, or something big happened deeper in the range. Neither is good news. Bale tells Vincent to come with him. They need to talk. The commanders head into the war room. Vincent stops and looks back at Adrian. Your Highness, thank you for your hard work. Adrian is baffled. Isn't he acting kind of weird? Arwen chuckles. She tells him that for a rough man like Vincent, flipping his attitude so fast is probably awkward. Suddenly, a voice rings out. Your Highness! Adelia comes sprinting across the courtyard like her life depends on it. She's nearly out of breath, saying she was worried he'd get lost or hurt. Adrian gives her a genuinely gentle smile. Adelia! She stops, looking up at him with those big puppy dog eyes. He holds up the banner. Do you know what this is? And here we go, bragging round 12. Later that night, Adrian is in his room. He hears that a new scout unit is being formed. They're going deep into the range to figure out what the monsters are up to. Vincent tells him that he won't be involved this time. It's too dangerous for a prince. Adrian asks who decided that. Vincent says the commander, meaning Bale, ordered him to tell Adrian personally. Adrian realizes Bale is trying to force them to spend time together to build a bond. Got it. You can go now. He dismisses Vincent like a servant. He slumps into his chair, finally alone. He looks at the orc banner on his table. The high of the victory is fading, replaced by calculation. He thinks about the battle. He went too deep. It was the first time he sang a war epic perfectly without skipping a single line. He knows he'll have to do it again and again if he wants to win the throne. But he realizes a hard truth. None of these epics are truly his yet. He's just possessing the memories of others. He needs to make them his own, just like the became thee. Suddenly, a sharp tap 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 on the window. Adrian turns. A bird? His blood runs cold. No, it's a massive, white-feathered bird with glowing hollow purple eyes. So this bird shows up looking like it's about to drop a cryptic quest line, and Adrian knows exactly who sent it. There is only one person in this world with this specific brand of I'm watching you energy. Sigrun, the high elf who is currently playing the role of his fiancé while simultaneously treating his life like a Netflix original series. She asks if he liked the gift she sent. Adrian's face says it all. He realizes the entire orc combat unit that just slaughtered his men wasn't a coincidence. It was a delivery. Sigrun is basically door-dashing life or death situations to his front gate because she thinks standard enemies are beneath his status. She calls it a gift from her heart. Most people send flowers, she sends a battalion of green-skinned murder machines. Adrian is fuming. Dozens of his rangers just died in the snow, and she's out here acting like she just sent him a gift card to Starbucks. The bird just sits there, reflecting her smug face, while we see a flashback of the carnage she enjoyed watching. This is the elven version of goodwill. To them, watching a man struggle through a poem of hatred is the peak of entertainment. Our guy is done with the small talk. He tells her to get to the point before he decides to see if the bird tastes like chicken. She leans in close, or at least the bird does, and the tone shifts. She tells him there's something he needs deep inside the mountain range. An ancient being is sleeping there. Sigrun promises that if Adrian can write him into a lyric, he'll obtain a poem that will make his current power look like a nursery rhyme. A wonderful poem, huh? Adrian is a tactical genius, and he's already calculating the risk-to-reward ratio, but the bird starts convulsing. Apparently, the mana required to possess a pigeon across a continent is pretty high, and her time is up. The bird literally explodes into blood right in front of his face. Unpleasant until the very end. That is Sigrun's entire brand. Adrian stares at the mess and realizes what she really wants. She's not just a voyeur, she's an editor. Elves are a race of reciters. They can't create their own legends, so they find heroes and sing their stories to gain power. She's giving him info because she wants the flavor of his next victory to be more intense. She's seasoning her dinner before it's even cooked. He wipes the blood off his face with a smirk. He'll play along, but only because he actually needs that power-up. Cut to later. Adrian is talking to Vincent about the mountains. Vincent tells him that none of the rangers who go deep into those peaks ever come back alive. So nobody knows what's in there? Adrian asks. That's essentially a challenge accepted for a guy like him. In the ancient past, heroes explored everything and exhausted the world's mysteries like they were clearing a map in an open-world RPG. But even back then, certain taboos were left alone, areas too dark for even the legends to touch. Adrian looks at the horizon. He's realizing that coming to this frozen wasteland was the best decision he's made in this new life. Vincent sees that look in his eyes and gets worried. He tells Adrian point blank, "Don't even think about going inside." Adrian gives the most untrustworthy "don't worry" in the history of the kingdom. He's literally whistling as he walks away. Not yet. He knows he's not ready. Back at the castle, the guards are yawning, thinking it's just another boring Tuesday. Adrian is sharpening his blade, wondering exactly what kind of monster is waiting for him in the snow. He wants to rush out, but he's disciplined. He needs more victories. He needs to stack his buffs before he takes on a world-class taboo. Suddenly, the warning horns start blaring. The castle goes into full panic mode. Another raid? Already? Soldiers are scrambling, archers are hitting the walls, and the Balorhard routine kicks in. Even Adrian is a bit surprised by the timing. He reaches the wall and sees the archers standing by, but the atmosphere is different. His uncle, Count Bale, is already there, looking out into the white. Bale points. It's over there. In the distance, across the snow-covered slopes, they see figures moving. It's the Rangers. They're sprinting toward the castle like their lives depend on it, because they do. Adrian watches them. They aren't just retreating, they are terrified. Behind them, the wolf riders are closing in, massive wolves carrying even more massive orcs. The Rangers are still out of bow range from the castle. They're in the death zone. The orcs are screaming, and the wolves are faster than any horse. Bale notes something strange. The orcs aren't catching them. They're staying just a few feet behind. It's not a chase, it's a herding. They're playing with their food. One of the rangers realizes they aren't going to make it. He stops. He turns around to buy his brothers 3 more seconds of life. He screams that he is a ranger of Balorhard as the lead wolf lunges. The other rangers are screaming for him not to stop, but it's too late. The impact is brutal. The ranger goes down in a spray of red. The captain turns back, but he's immediately surrounded by shadows and fur. The orcs strike. Fast. Efficient. It's a slaughter. The snow is turning red faster than the guards on the wall can blink. Up on the wall, the soldiers are frozen. It's one thing to hear about a raid, it's another to watch your friends get disassembled like Lego sets. Bale has his eyes closed. He's the commander, and he just gave the order for no one to go down. The guards are trembling. They want to help, but the Count's word is law. Bale asks Adrian if he wants to know why he didn't save them. Adrian doesn't even look away. He knows why. It's a trap, Adrian says. If they sent troops out, the wolf riders would have flanked them and turned the rescue mission into a massacre. Bale nods. This is a war of attrition. The orcs don't care about their own losses, they just want to drain the castle's spirit. Winter has just begun, and the orcs are already playing 4D chess. But then, the shouting starts again. The wolf riders are approaching the wall. But they aren't attacking, they're carrying something. They toss a body onto the snow. It's the captain. He's mangled, but he's breathing. The archers use their telescopes and gasp. The rangers they thought were dead are twitching. They're still alive! The word spreads across the wall like wildfire. The orcs are just sitting there, waiting. They're using the dying men as bait, knowing the humans can't ignore it. Bale is gritting his teeth. This level of psychological warfare is uncharacteristic for orcs. Adrian narrows his eyes. He's thinking about Sigrun again. That fucking elf is definitely involved in this. Then, a heavy footfall hits the snow. A massive figure walks through the line of wolf riders. He's carrying a banner topped with a skull. His eyes are glowing red. This isn't a grunt. Adrian recognizes that aura. It's heavy. It's ancient. The orc screams a challenge that shakes the very stones of the castle. Vincent thinks they're about to start an execution ceremony right there in the snow. No, Adrian says, stepping forward. He can see the intent behind the posture. He knows the old meta better than anyone. They are requesting a duel. Adrian smiles. Finally, the orc's banner waves in the wind. The challenge is simple. Let's fight. The orc noble roars for his king and his legion. The scene is set. A lone orc noble standing over the mangled bodies of rangers, demanding a duel from the most fortified castle in the north. Bale is skeptical. He asks Adrian if he's sure these things are actually taking hostages for a duel. He and Vincent have that "is the prince crazy again" look on their faces, like father, like son. Adrian sighs. If they won't believe his translation, he'll just have to prove it. He takes a deep breath, stepping to the edge of the rampart. Then, he screams back in the orc's own tongue, "I accept your duel!" The orc freezes. He looks up at the human prince like he just saw a dog start reciting poetry. "How does a human speak the language of our clan?" the orc demands. He's genuinely shook. But the respect is immediate. The orc noble bows his head and says they shall comply with the terms. Adrian tells him to fall back 200 paces. He then turns to his uncle with a "did I stutter" expression. Bale and Vincent are having a collective brain aneurysm. They've spent their whole lives fighting these things as mindless beasts. And here is Adrian having a civilized chat in a dead language with a 10-foot-tall monster. True to the prince's word, the orcs actually start pulling back. Bale has weathered dozens of winters, but he's never seen an orc show restraint. It breaks his entire worldview. "Save your shock for later," Adrian says. "We have a fight to win. The terms are simple. 5 participants for the duel. But there's a catch. They must be people who fought in the previous skirmish at the foot of the mountain." Vincent immediately steps up. He's the commander. He's not letting anyone else take his spot. The other rangers start volunteering, fueled by a mix of courage and a suicidal need for revenge. Adrian shuts them down. 2 spots are already taken. The rangers try to argue it's too dangerous for the prince, but Adrian reminds them he's the only one who can actually negotiate with the referee. They ask for at least 1 more spot. Adrian just gives them a cold "I refuse." He looks at Arwen. He can see her vibrating with anticipation. She's been waiting for a real fight. He asks if she can handle it. She bows. "Yes, your highness." Short, professional, lethal. Bale pulls Adrian aside. He still can't get over the language thing. Adrian just tells him to study hard and leaves him hanging. Bale realizes this is a highly exceptional case. He's starting to accept that Adrian is just built different. Down in the snow, the orc noble is getting impatient. "Are we not there yet?" Adrian tells his team to head down. It's time to clock in. Vincent leads the way, looking like he's about to walk into his own funeral. Arwen is right behind him, calm as a lake. Adrian walks behind them, thinking about the timing of everything. The elf envoy shows up, the orc king reveals himself, and the north is burning. It's all connected. The chains of the drawbridge start rattling. The massive gates of Winter Castle open, and the 3 of them walk out into the freezing wind. Adrian is smiling. He has no idea what's happening in the big picture, but now is not the time for politics. They reach the center of the field. The orcs are waiting like statues. Now is the time to fight. The orc noble steps forward. He's even bigger up close. He looks at Adrian. "Are you my opponent?" He sounds disappointed that the humans sent a pretty boy. Adrian asks if he's dissatisfied. The orc's eyes flare red. "Far from it." The orc can feel the spirit coming off Adrian. He says Adrian's blood will be a rare delicacy. Adrian chuckles. How amusing. He realizes the irony. The first person in this new life to acknowledge his true strength without prejudice is a monster. Vincent sees the red aura and panics. He tries to take the lead, thinking the prince is about to get crushed. But the impact of the orc's first move sends a shockwave through the ground. The other orcs start growling. This isn't a 1v1. Arwen moves instantly, intercepting a wolf rider. Adrian grins. Orcs do not take turns. He's been in enough wars to know honor just means they won't stab you in the back before the whistle blows. He tells everyone to fight and survive on their own. The brawl is officially open. Steel meets iron. The sound is deafening. Arwen is a blur of purple and silver, slicing through orc hide like it's paper. Vincent is holding his own, using the ranger techniques to parry blows that would break a normal man's ribs. Adrian leaps into the air. He clashes with the orc noble. The force of the strike creates a crater in the snow. The orc is grinning. He's finding his rhythm. He lands a heavy blow that sends Adrian skidding back across the ice. Adrian catches himself, but he's breathing a bit harder. The orc noble looms over him. How disappointing. Your actual strength is pathetic compared to your spirit. He's right. Adrian's body is still a bottleneck, but Adrian just looks up with a glint in his eye. Well, we shall see about that. Suddenly, a blue flame erupts from Adrian's chest. The mana heart is redlining. On the castle walls, the rangers start shouting. They're screaming for the prince to kill him. The hatred in their voices is visceral. Slaughter them all! Gouge their eyes out! Adrian closes his eyes and listens. He can feel the deep-rooted emotions of hundreds of men welling up. It's identical to the emotions he felt 400 years ago. The grudge, the grief, the requiem. He realizes that coming here was the right decision. This battlefield is his battery. He thanks the orc for waiting. The orc noble charges, but the air around Adrian is different now. It's cold. It's heavy with death. Adrian calls him a noble green-skin aristocrat. The orc noble is roaring, swinging that massive axe like it weighs nothing. Vincent is barely holding on, taking the impact directly. Look at the sparks flying. He's gritting his teeth, wondering how a trash prince is handling the boss while he's struggling with the ads. He unloads a verbal, damn you, because that's all he has left. He's never seen orcs coordinate like this before. Usually, they just run in and die, but these guys are playing like they're in a pro league. But what's really bothering him is the guy Adrian is fighting. That noble isn't just a berserker, he's a mountain of red aura that even a shaman spell couldn't create. Meanwhile, Adrian is locked in. He's got that blue flame flickering in his eyes, completely focused. The rangers watching from the wall are losing their minds. The trash prince is pushing back a literal monster in a straight-up skill check. He looks like a shadow moving through the snow. He hits the orc with the ultimate disrespect. He tells him that for someone who talked so much trash earlier, he's actually not that impressive. The orc calls it a vulgar provocation, but you can tell the mood is ruined. He's tilted now. The noble lunges, screaming about claiming Adrian's flesh. The impact literally shatters the ground, sending ice and dirt everywhere. But look at the axe. It's cracking. Adrian didn't just block it, he countered it so hard the orc's weapon is giving up on life. The orc's face is pure, how is this happening? Adrian doesn't give him time to process, he's already in the blind spot. One clean slash, the orc noble goes down, screaming as he hits the snow. It's quiet for a second. The wolf riders are frozen. Their leader just got deleted by a human. Adrian walks toward the fallen noble. He's talking about settling a debt with the spirits he borrowed power from. He's got that cold protagonist stare. Farewell. The orc's last words are a shout to his king. He knows he's cooked. Adrian finishes him. No monologue, just results. But then, something shifts. The air gets heavy. Adrian looks toward the mountains. He can feel a gaze coming from the peaks that shouldn't be possible. Arwen and Vincent start running toward him, but Adrian screams for them to stay back. Arwen stops. She's never heard him sound that alarmed. The ground starts vibrating. Arwen is pushed back by the sheer pressure in the air. Even Bale, way up on the wall, can feel the spiritual weight of whatever is coming. A bright flash appears on the mountain peak. Adrian realizes what it is a split second too late. The sound of the air being torn apart echoes through the valley. It's a spear, a massive mountain-hewn spear thrown from kilometers away. He barely has time to brace. The projectile looks like a falling star made of pure malice. Adrian catches the impact. The shockwave clears the snow for 50 yards. He's realizing that his current body is still a bottleneck. He's trying to hold back a force that was meant to level a castle. The explosion is massive. Arwen screams his name. Dust and snow fill the air as the mountain range itself seems to laugh. Vincent is coughing through the debris, trying to see if there's anything left of the prince. He's horrified. There it is. A spear the size of a pillar, buried deep in the earth. Vincent looks around frantically. Where is Adrian? He sees boots in the snow. Arwen is already there. She's standing over him, but her face is completely pale. She drops her shield. Her sword hits the ground. She falls to her knees. This is the first time we've seen Arwen actually look broken. Adrian is lying there, half buried in the snow, looking like a statue. She reaches for his neck, no pulse. Our guy actually just flatlined. She's shaking him, begging him to stay. Then she locks in. She knows she has to restore his breathing immediately. She leans in for the mouth-to-mouth. It's a desperate move, but she's literally breathing life back into him. Adrian suddenly coughs up blood, his body jerking back to life. Arwen pulls back, panting, eyes wide with relief. He's breathing. He's alive. Barely. She looks at him and realizes something she usually forgets because he's so competent, he's actually still young and physically fragile. Vincent finally catches up, asking about his condition. Arwen doesn't even look at him, she's just focused on the prince. Adrian mutters her name. He's waking up, and the first thing out of his mouth isn't "thank you for saving me," it's a string of curses for the orcs. He says honor is a joke and the only good orc is a dead one. He's in an insane amount of pain and tells them to finish off the rest of the bastards first. Vincent is confused, asking what he said. Arwen stands up, her aura flaring. She tells Vincent the prince ordered them to end this battle right now. The rangers are more than happy to comply. They've got a lot of pent-up anger to release. They charge in to finish the wolf riders who were dumb enough to stick around. Cut to later. Adrian wakes up in bed, immediately yelling about orcs again. Vincent is there, asking how he's feeling. Adrian says his whole body aches, especially his arm, but he says his chest hurts more because he's so furious. His ego took more damage than his ribs. He didn't even get to trade blows with the guy who threw that spear. To think he'd end up in a bed because of one long-range projectile. He hates the map hack energy of the Orc King. Vincent thanks him. Because of Adrian, they saved rangers they had already written off as dead. The entire garrison is currently in his debt. Adrian calls the thank you cringeworthy because he's allergic to sincere gratitude. Vincent changes the subject to the war. An Orc Legion has set up camp just a kilometer away. Winter Castle can hold them off, but the situation is tense. He asks Adrian about the massive spear, the one that roared from the mountains. Adrian confirms it. That bastard is the king. A king of orcs that hasn't been seen in centuries. Vincent is skeptical. Orcs are usually too chaotic to follow a single leader without stabbing him in the back. Adrian tells him there's a specific title for an existence like that, a being that lives only for combat.
Who fights, tramples, and conquers everything in its path. A warlord.
Adrian is still in bed, looking annoyed that he's not allowed to leave. Arwen and Adelia are guarding him like he's made of glass. Bale is already planning the siege defense, realizing they can't step outside the gates with those numbers. The strategic meeting is moving fast. They're requesting the Black Spear Cavalry and looking for reinforcements from beyond the mountains. Adrian finally snaps. He asks why they're holding a loud-ass meeting in his room when there's a perfectly good conference room down the hall. Vincent ignores the grumbling and says they need the prince's help. They've never heard of an Orc King and have no idea how to fight one. Bale looks at him, waiting for that ancient wisdom. Suddenly, 3 different officers are shoving papers in his face, asking for help with logistics and troop movements. He lets out a frustrated "they're so annoying" as the title card hits. What a day! Eventually, the meeting ends. The officers thank him and tell him to rest well. He collapses back into the pillows, complaining that they're working a patient to the bone. Bale lingers. Adrian can tell his uncle has something on his mind. Bale asks if that blue flame he saw on the battlefield was the epic poem power Adrian mentioned before. He remembers the sheer scale of the mana. Adrian confirms it. He sits up, getting serious. He asks Bale what he thought after seeing it. Bale goes quiet. Adrian knows his mind is in turmoil. Bale has spent his whole life training with mana rings, a system that hates the idea of a mana heart. Bale finally asks the million-dollar question. Can Knights of the Ring wield that power too? Adrian looks at Arwen, then back to Bale. He calls his uncle greedy. Bale can already accumulate mana faster and more stably than a heart user, yet he wants the high-tier buffs too? Adrian explains that transcendence through an epic poem is a privilege reserved for those with mana in their hearts. It's not permitted for the Knights of the Ring. It's like trying to run high-end software on outdated hardware. Bale just says, and? He knows Adrian didn't show him that power just to flex. There was a reason. Adrian smiles. He likes that his uncle finally trusts him enough to push for more. He asks if Bale knew about the elves. Bale looks confused. Adrian explains that elves also can't compose poems. They use sword dances to borrow the melodies of others. He's basically suggesting that if you can't write the song, you can at least play the instrument. He points to Bale's chest. He's trained his entire life. Mana rings inherently resonate with each other. If you use them right, they can act as a resonance chamber for a poem. Bale is stunned. Adrian wonders what kind of realization this will bring his uncle. He watches Bale walk toward the window, looking at the distant castle walls. Adrian thinks to himself that finding a new path is up to the knights themselves, not him. He's just the one pointing at the map. He gives a small, satisfied smirk. Then he notices Bale and Arwen are still standing there staring at him. Why are you doing this in my room again? He's really over the lack of privacy. Cut to later that night. Adrian is finally getting some shut-eye. He snaps awake. He lets out a GAH as he sees Adelia just sitting in a chair watching him sleep. He asks where his uncle is. Adelia says he left while the prince was asleep. Adrian asks if anything seemed different about him. Adelia says he seemed to agonize over it for a while. Adrian wonders if he failed to gain a realization. Then the door opens. Bale walks in. Adrian takes one look at him and lets out a ho. He sees it, a mighty presence that fears nothing, the unmistakable aura of a swordmaster. He thinks that his uncle has finally attained a soul worthy of his body. Bale finally hit that prestige level. Bale bows. He says his eyes have been opened and thanks Adrian. Adrian hits him with the classic, "People die when they change so suddenly." Bale asks if he's grumpy. Adrian thinks back to when he was a literal god-tier sword 400 years ago. Now he's just a measly sword expert. He tells Bale he's not grumpy or jealous in the slightest. He's lying. Bale gives him a knowing smile. Adrian finds it incredibly annoying. He asks what exactly his uncle gained from the realization. Bale says he hasn't quite gotten the hang of the performance, but he set a single milestone in his mind. He looks out the window. He says he's going to start walking in that direction. He sighs, looking at his nephew. It's like saving a drowning man only for him to demand his luggage. Bale looks at the image of the warlord in his mind. Adrian tells him not to go drooling over his prey. He's mine, Bale smirks. He says he has many things he wishes to ask, but he won't. He doesn't care how the prince knows so much about orcs or elves. He believes Adrian will tell him when the time comes. Adrian thinks his uncle has changed way too much. Suddenly, a guard bursts in. The orc army is approaching. The numbers are staggering. Well over several hundred. No, it's a massive army in the thousands. The entire horizon is green. The castle is in high alert. Archers to their positions. Bale and Adrian stand on the wall, looking at the tide of monsters. The pressure in the air is like a physical weight. Even Adrian is sweating a little. Bale notes the formidable fighting spirit coming from the camp. He asks if that's the warlord. No, Adrian says. That bastard is just the vanguard, one of the most ferocious orcs serving the king, a most valiant general, the one known as the nightmare of knights and swordmasters, the combat legion commander, the Night Slayer. And he's looking right at them.